Chapter 1239. Tan Xiu thought for a moment, then took out his phone and said, "There's no hard and fast requirement for the specific number. The secret base in the country needs a large number of researchers, so the more the better. Remember, all you need to do is to investigate all the researchers from all over the world. I'll send someone else to carry out the specifics." "Yes." Jin Shi complied and was about to hang up the phone when he suddenly recalled something. After a short hesitation, he asked, "Your Majesty, are you in a secret base in China now?" Tan Xiu said, "Yes, I just arrived." "Your Majesty, according to China's intelligence network investigation, 2 groups of foreign forces have recently infiltrated the Hetian region," said Jin Shi. 2 days ago, 4 of our intelligence agents were killed by those 2 groups of people. In the end, we still lost track of them. According to the direction in which they disappeared, they should be heading in the direction of the Taklamakan Desert. In addition, in Hetian City, we also found surveillance videos of them buying daily necessities. They should be preparing to go deep into the desert. Tan Xiu asked, "Are you saying that they came for this secret base?" "I can't guarantee it 100%, said Jin Shi. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and then said, "Send me the number and characteristics of those 2 groups of people, as well as all the intelligence you've investigated. Also, send people to keep a close eye on the movements in the Hetian region. If they are discovered again, don't act rashly and report directly to me." "Yes." Tan Xiu hung up, looked at Duan Mulin, and asked, "Do foreign forces often sneak into the Taklamakan Desert?" Duan Mulin forced a smile and said, "A total of 23 groups of people have come to the Taklamakan Desert in the past 3 years, but all of them were killed by our people. They were intelligence agents from various countries, and there was no lack of cultivators among them. In fact, no matter how secretive our base is, we still need a lot of materials, parts, and even mechanical molds. We have to buy them from overseas, so it's inevitable that we'll attract a lot of attention." Tan Xiu nodded without a word and said, "I'll send my intelligence personnel to keep a close eye on the movements of Huaxia and strive to capture all the spies. Just now, Jin Shi reported to me that there are 2 groups of people sneaking into the Hetian area, and their target should also be here. Did you send people to get rid of them? Or should I go there myself?" Duan Mulin thought for a moment and said, "I'll send someone over." Tan Xiu said, "Okay." Soon, Zhulong left with dozens of powerful arcanists. In order to avoid accidents, they did not bring high-tech weapons, nor did they drive those strange green vehicles. They only drove desert SUVs that were commonly seen in the outside world and quickly headed for Hetian. In the following days, Tan Xiu toured the secret base under Duan Mulin's guidance. Even though Tan Xiu was familiar with many of the technological products, he still felt it was interesting to see them with his own eyes. "What is that place?" 4 to 5 hours later, when everyone passed by a door, Tan Xiu noticed that Duan Mulin did not intend to take him in for a tour, so he immediately pointed there and asked. Duan Mulin smiled faintly and said, "That's a warehouse for storing energy crystals. There's nothing worth visiting. Up ahead is the xenogenic plant area. Let's go. I'm sure you'll learn a lot." Energy crystals. Tan Xiu was secretly startled. When Tan Xiu gave the energy crystal converter to Duan Mulin, he secretly sent some people to empty a large number of energy crystals in the 3-star vestige and even copied the method to manufacture the energy crystal converter. Over the past 3 years, the Empire's members on 9 Dragons Island had secretly manufactured 4 energy crystal converter assembly lines under Mo Yi's leadership. Each assembly line could produce nearly 100 energy crystals a day. Duan Mulin. Tang Xiu didn't have the intention to leave and even changed the way he addressed him. Duan Mulin's heart thumped, but he maintained his composure and said, "Don't tell me you're not interested in the xenogenic plant area? If you're really not interested, then let's go somewhere else." A disappointed look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He shook his head and said, "What I want to remind you is that you only have 2 years left. I'm afraid you'll have to stay here for the rest of your life if you can't get rid of that thought within 2 years." Duan Mulin was a bit annoyed inwardly. He was a shrewd and experienced man, so how could he not hear the threat in Tan Xiu's words? However, such a threat made him very dissatisfied and aroused his stubbornness. He lightly said, "I'm doing my job, so I must guard this place as long as I'm still here." Tan Xiu suddenly let out a particularly bright smile and said, "I'm indeed very curious about the xenogenic plant area. Take me there to have a look." Duan Mulin watched Tan Xiu's back as he turned and left. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, such as sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and salty. If Tan Xiu insisted, he naturally wouldn't stop Tan Xiu from entering the energy crystal reserve warehouse. He would even give some energy crystals to Tan Xiu if he asked. But Tan Xiu didn't insist and even showed such an expression after Duan Mulin stubbornly stated his position. Therefore, he realized at this moment that Tan Xiu had given up on him. He opened his mouth to express his apology, but he swallowed the words back into his stomach. It was just that deep regret was crazily breeding in his heart. If only. If he was given another chance, he would never refute Tan Xiu, let alone say those words just now. However, he knew Tan Xiu. Once Tan Xiu made up his mind, there was no hope for him to change his mind no matter how much he tried to explain and plead. The immortal world. He really, really wanted to go there. He even wanted to live longer and become stronger. But because of his momentary impulse, he lost this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, leaving him full of bitterness and bitterness. 2 days later. Tan Xiu stayed in the base, looking at all kinds of high-tech products. He even had the urge to refine some high-tech magic tools or immortal tools. Ah Lang, what kind of effect do you think the close combination of immortal cultivation and science and technology will produce? Standing in the oasis above the base, Tan Xiu asked thoughtfully. Immortal cultivation has its own power, and science and technology also has its own benefits, said Tang Along. The combination of the two will complement each other's strengths and naturally bring about endless benefits. However, how to combine them is still something that needs to be considered. Otherwise, it's easy to deviate and affect both sides. Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Tang Along. You've made great progress in just 3 years. You're only one step away from becoming a grown-up. Tang Along was a bit embarrassed by Tan Xiu's praise, but there was still a hint of confusion in his eyes as he curiously asked, "What's the last step, master?" "You're still a boy in my eyes, not a man," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Only after experiencing the nourishment of women can you be considered a real man." An awkward look appeared on Tang Along's handsome face. He shook his head vigorously and said, "I'd rather be a boy forever than a man, master. I'm afraid I'll end up like you." "What?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded. Tang Along grinned mischievously and said, "I've seen how powerful your wives are, master." Cough, cough, Tan Xiu couldn't catch his breath and choked on his own saliva, coughing a few times. If Tang Along was 10 years younger, he would really want to catch this guy's big ass. Unexpectedly, he dared to call him master. Suddenly, Tang Xiu's expression shifted and he shifted his gaze to the distance. What surprised him was that Zhu Long and 2 experts from the Special Abilities Bureau were fleeing in the desert a few kilometers away, drenched in blood. More than a dozen figures moved lightning fast behind them and were pursuing them with all their might. "They're foreigners, master," said Tang Along. Zhu Long led his men to hunt down the 2 groups of people who sneaked into the desert a few days ago. Tan Xiu nodded. "I'm afraid he met some ruthless people, so he was chased so miserably." With that said, Tan Xiu's figure flashed and appeared in front of Zhu Long in just a breath or two. Looking at the trio's distressed appearance, he asked indifferently, "What about the others you brought?" Zhu Long and the other 2 finally felt relieved upon seeing Tan Xiu. Zhu Long squeezed out a smile and his lips squirmed as he said, "They're all dead. They died in the hands of those people behind us. They're very strong, Mr. Tang, much stronger than anyone who has sneaked into the desert before." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "As far as I know, there should be 2 groups of people." "What about the other group?" "The other group is from the Stygian Club." We just got rid of them and were intercepted by these people from Pyramid, said Zhu Long. If it weren't for us desperately fighting them, I'm afraid we would have died outside. Zhu Long, go back and tell Duan Mulin that I won't come here again from now on, said Tan Xiu. I hope he won't look for me again. Also, I hope he won't forget the promise he made to me in the past. What do you mean? Zhu Long's face revealed a puzzled look, but he still nodded silently. While talking, more than a dozen experts from Pyramid had surrounded the five of them. The leader was a big man wearing a black mask and holding a long saber. He coldly stared at Tan Xiu's group and said, "It seems that the results of the investigation are correct. You're definitely plotting something in this desert. Tell me why you're here and maybe I'll spare your lives." Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and said, "That long saber in your hand should have been bought at the Genesis auction in Shanghai 3 years ago, yes? How did you know?" The big man's complexion changed and a vigilant look appeared in his eyes. Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "It's because I personally refined this long saber. You can look at the handle if you don't believe me. There's a tiny character on it. Tang." The big man didn't look at the handle, but his finger pressed on the tiny character. Continue to erupt today. Seeking monthly votes for support. Chapter 1240. Facing an unknown enemy, no matter who it was, they would always be on guard. A ruthless glint flashed in the eyes of the black-masked man. He slightly raised the tip of his saber and asked, "I'll ask you one last time. Who the hell are you? What are you secretly researching in this desert?" Tan Xiu didn't bother to say any more nonsense. He just calmly turned his head to glance at Zhu Long before his figure disappeared from the spot. Shortly after, heads were sent flying and pillars of blood soared to the sky. In nearly the blink of an eye, more than a dozen Pyramid experts who chased Zhu Long and his men were slaughtered by Tan Xiu. Zhu Long and the 2 experts from the Special Abilities Bureau watched the scene in front of them dumbfoundedly. They didn't care about the bloody scene. What they couldn't believe was that Tan Xiu's strength had become so powerful that he killed more than a dozen experts in the blink of an eye. How did his strength become so terrifying? Am I dreaming? Muttered an expert from the Special Abilities Bureau. But immediately after, he noticed that Zhu Long and his other companion cast him a complicated look. At the underground base, Duan Mulin quietly stood in the monitoring room of the base with his hands clasped behind his back. The huge monitoring room was the size of a basketball court, and the big screen in front of him was displaying the monitoring scene in the desert. He killed them all so easily. Duan Mulin's current strength was not what it used to be. He could still judge the strength of more than a dozen Pyramid experts who chased Zhu Long. Even the mysterious burly man leading them was likely stronger than him. Yet, they were so easily killed by Tan Xiu. The current him, to what extent had he reached? Deep remorse emerged in Duan Mulin's eyes. He realized that he had always been sitting in a hole and looking at the sky. Even though he knew that the outside world was a big stage, he was still stuck in a rut and lacked the desire to explore. What he regretted the most was that he had a great opportunity in front of him, but because of his stubbornness and the glory brought to him by this base, his attitude toward Tan Xiu had changed. This change, he only realized it when he said the wrong thing and made the wrong choice. The immortal world. Immortals. Billions of races. Duan Mulin's heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and kidneys ached with regret when he thought of that marvelous world. There were countless times when he had the urge to chase after Tan Xiu and apologize to Tan Xiu. However, he always stopped at the last moment because he felt that he needed a little bit of dignity. If I don't rely on him, can I do it in the future? Duan Mulin was silent for a long time. In the end, it transformed into a deep sigh, and he closed his eyes to conceal the unwillingness and regret on his face. The heat waves were monstrous. In the desert that was like a steamer basket, Tan Xiu walked as if he was walking on flat ground. The expression on his handsome face was exceptionally calm. Back then, he had imparted the cultivation technique to Duan Mulin in hopes that he would submit to him in the future and work for him. However, after being in a high position for a long time, coupled with the increase in his strength, his heart began to swell. This kind of person. Tan Xiao had encountered this kind of situation countless times. Even when he was in the immortal world, he had countless subordinates who were in the same situation. Some of them, whom he had saved, had their attitudes toward him change after their strength skyrocketed after encountering a great opportunity. Some of them even shed all pretense of cordiality and turned their backs on him. Character. It determined a person's future. Although Tan Xiao felt a bit regretful, it was only a little bit. He had already imparted the cultivation technique to him. Whether or not he could remember his kindness in the future, and no matter how far he could go in the future, it was all his own business and had nothing to do with him anymore. Even more so. After he left, the Great Tang Empire's intelligence network and the ordinary intelligence personnel would be left to him and China. He hoped that China would become more and more powerful in the future and be able to smoothly lead humanity to set foot on the Milky Way galaxy and embark on the interstellar voyage era. Only then would they have the ability to protect themselves. Master, you seem to have something on your mind. Following beside Tan Xiao, Tang Along wore a thoughtful look on his handsome face. There's indeed something on my mind. Tan Xiao nodded. Is it because of Duanmu Lin? Asked Tang Along. You have good insight. I'm more and more optimistic about you now, said Tan Xiao with a smile. I've already grasped the essence of all kinds of books. Even if I'm stupid, I can still see the ways of the world and gain insight into some of the psychological activities of others. In fact, Duanmu Lin should be regretting it now, but you didn't give him another chance. Even if I choose to take a step back this time, he'll still show his current attitude even if he makes significant achievements in a certain aspect in the future, said Tan Xiao calmly. This is a person's character and something that is integrated into their bones. Humans and immortals will all change. It's just that some people will change for the better, while others will change for the worse. Tang Along nodded and said, everyone has a path in front of them. It's just that the path is blocked, so we can only go our separate ways. Tan Xiao faintly smiled and reached out to pat his shoulder. His figure instantly soared into the sky and wrapped Tang Along in a stream of air. In just a short moment, the two of them had completed the 2-day journey and appeared in a city hundreds of kilometers away after 10 minutes. Puff, 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 sword light flashed and heads fell to the ground. In an inconspicuous courtyard in a remote residential area of the city, dozens of foreign cultivators were instantly beheaded by Tan Xiao. All of them were members of the Stygian Club. Tan Xiao easily scanned them with his spiritual sense after coming to the city. Who are you? An angry roar came from the house as a red-robed old man rushed out of the door with 2 young men and appeared in front of Tan Xiao and Tang Along. Ah Lang, those 2 little guys aren't weak. I'll leave them to you to practice your skills, said Tan Xiao calmly. Tang Along hesitated for a while and forced a smile. I may have broken through to the nascent soul stage, Master, but I've only fought fierce beasts in the pocket world at most. I've never fought with others. In case. Tan Xiao raised his hand to interrupt him and indifferently said, there's always a first time for everything. These 2 may not be as strong as you, but the smell of blood on them is very strong and their killing aura is also very strong. It proves that they have killed countless people and have rich combat experience. It's enough for you to use them as your whetstone. Tang Along took a deep breath and a firm look flashed in his eyes. He strode a few steps toward the trio and cupped his fists. I've fought countless times in my childhood, but I've never fought against a cultivator. Please go all out, gentlemen, because it's either you or I who will die in the next fight. The old man's pupils shrunk. He just felt a flash of a powerful aura. His scalp tingled and he couldn't wait to run away immediately. But it was too long, so he thought he was hallucinating. Hence, when he smelled the blood, he immediately rushed out of the room with his 2 disciples. However, the scene in front of him shocked him and sent a chill down his spine. There were no screams. There was no resistance. The scene in front of him showed that dozens of his subordinates were killed in an instant, leaving them no time to resist or call for help. Nascent Soul Stage. This was the name mentioned by the young man just now. It was also one of the cultivation realms of Chinese cultivators. Other people in the Stygian club might not know what this realm meant, but he was very clear about it. This disciple is at the nascent soul stage. What kind of realm has his master reached? This seemingly young guy couldn't be an old monster who has lived for hundreds of years, could he? Who the hell are you? Asked the old man in a deep voice. You don't have the qualification to know who we are, replied Tan Xiu lightly. All you need to know is that today is the day you die. The old man snorted coldly, but he didn't intend to attack Tan Xiu. The tragic death of dozens of his subordinates reminded him of the previous feeling of his scalp tingling. After hesitating for a while, he was about to return to the room with his two disciples and then break the back window to escape. But suddenly, he felt a terrifying force that directly bound his body. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't budge at all. Freeze! Tan Xiu cast the body freezing art and instantly fixed the old man on the spot. Then, he retracted the primal chaos force that imprisoned his body and lightly smiled. What are you waiting for, Ah Lang? If they wanted to escape, he would just kill them. If they're willing to fight you fair and square, and if you lose, let them go. The two youths glanced at each other. Then, one of them immediately asked the old man, Can we kill him, master? The old man blinked and bitterly said, You two attack him together. Defeat him, but don't kill him. If you two can defeat him, I'll give you the 2 daggers I made. Really? Both of them looked pleasantly surprised at the same time and called out in surprise. Really? The old man wanted to nod, but he couldn't even move his neck no matter how hard he tried. Helpless, he could only look at Tan Xiu and gave him a pleading look. A sneer flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He gently moved his palm forward and the old man's head instantly flew up. He was directly killed amidst a fountain of blood. Master! Master! The two youths' complexions drastically changed and disbelief filled their eyes. In their minds, their master was simply an invincible existence. He once killed dozens of terrifying cultivators and even took them to the mystic realm to kill some terrifying fierce beasts. But the invincible existence in their eyes was actually killed by a young man with a casual wave of his arm. How was this possible? Listen, you two. I've given you the chance to live. You can leave here alive if you can kill my disciple, said Tan Xiu calmly. But if you can't kill my disciple, you can only go to hell to accompany your master. Chapter 1241. The two young men exchanged dismayed glances. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that this terrifying powerhouse in front of them would make such a request. Could it be? Did he have a grudge against his disciple? Why did he have to force them to go all out to kill his disciple? Tang Along cast a hand seal and instantly unleashed the immortal sword inside his body. In the blink of an eye, the immortal sword had already arrived in front of the two young men. He realized that his master must let him kill them, else he would likely be killed today. This was a form of training, but it was also a test. Kill! The two young men no longer hesitated. The desire to survive drove them crazy at the same time. They were not good people. Each of them was a ruthless character whose hands were stained with blood. Since their master was like a dog in front of this man, the only way for them to survive was to kill this brat in front of them and hope that their master would keep his word. Lightning charm. Almost in an instant, the two young men took out talismans from their sleeves and activated them, causing lightning bolts to shoot directly at Tang Along. Tang Xiu, who was standing more than 10 meters away, instantly squinted his eyes because he found that the lightning talisman activated by the two youths was also refined by him. Furthermore, it was the same talisman that was auctioned off at the Genesis auction in Shanghai 3 years ago. Interesting. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth, but his eyes were full of murderous intent as he looked at the two young men. Tang Along had never had a life-and-death fight with a cultivator. Facing the lightning bolts coming at him, he was horrified to find that the dozens of lightning bolts had almost sealed off the space around him. Even if he tried to retreat, he wouldn't be as fast as the lightning bolts. 10 Directional Sword Annihilation. Tang Along cursed inwardly. The immortal sword instantly transformed into dozens of immortal swords and arranged a layer of sword array in front of him. As the lightning bolts bombarded the sword images, his body shook violently and he staggered back a few steps before he managed to stabilize himself. Creak. Creak, the bodies of the two young men began to change. Fangs appeared in their mouths and sharp nails pierced through their flesh. Two pairs of black wings instantly grew out and flapped them. A black stream of chi turned into sharp arrows and shot toward Tang Along lightning fast. Vampires? Tang Along had never seen a real vampire in reality. He only heard that vampires existed in some European countries. There was even a vampire force that had a deep friendship with his master, Tan Xiu. Mental wave. Tang Along, who had very little combat experience, used his offense as a defense to block the lightning bolts and the steady stream of black energy arrows. At the same time, he also displayed another kind of attack he was good at. Buzz, the two vampires who were attacking Tang Along in mid-air suddenly trembled and let out ear-piercing screams, causing the black arrow beams to collapse and disperse. At this time, Tang Along's body instantly sprinted tens of meters into the air like a cannonball. He frantically swung his immortal sword and unleashed the decagonal sword array again. This time, he didn't use the 10 directions sword formation to defend, but to initiate an attack. Puff puff puff. Bloodstains appeared on the two vampires' bodies, but they were extremely experienced in combat. The moment they quickly took out their staffs, the black stream of chi formed a huge shield and blocked the incoming sword beams. They also released black arrow beams again and continuously shot them at Tang Along from both sides. The tricky and strange trajectory caught Tang Along off guard and caused his chest to be hit by a black arrow. Puff! Blood spurted out of Tang Along's mouth and the jade pendant he wore on his chest shattered and eventually turned into powder that drifted away with the wind. Get lost! The immortal sword instantly returned to Tang Along's side and flashed lightning-fast sword beams that smashed the black arrow beams. Caught off guard, two sharp feathers followed two of the countless black arrow beams and directly pierced Tang Along's left arm and right chest. Calm down. I must calm down. My combat experience is not as rich as theirs, but I'm faster and stronger than them. If I can observe their attacks calmly, I can find the loopholes in their attacks and launch a counterattack. Although Tang Along was wounded, he kept forcing himself to calm down. His eyes turned sharp and his body became steady. His spiritual sense once again turned into an attack wave, causing the two vampires to scream and flee. Fire! Tang Along performed some hand seals and flames appeared out of thin air, turning into a rain of fire that overwhelmingly pressed down on the two vampires. Wind! Hurricanes appeared out of thin air around the flames as if they were burning in a circle of wind, causing the speed of the flames to increase several times. Saber! The moment the immortal sword circled around Tang Along and destroyed the black arrow beams, a sharp dagger appeared in his hand. This dagger was given to him by Master's wife, Kang Xia. It was also a self-defense dagger she picked from 9 Dragons Island's treasure vault. I've never killed anyone, but I've killed hundreds of fierce beasts. Since you've turned into beasts, I'll slaughter your lives. Speed advantage. He chased after the rain of fire tornadoes and appeared in front of a vampire in a flash. His meteor-like fist plunged into the rain of fire tornadoes and violently enlarged dozens of times and bombarded the vampire's body. The moment the vampire retreated, the dagger in his other hand shot out and pierced one of the vampire's wings. Burn it! A flame appeared out of thin air on the vampire's pierced wing wound. In almost an instant, the flame spread like a prairie fire and engulfed the entire wing. Arg! The heart-wrenching pain caused the vampire to howl in pain, but what welcomed him was streaks of meteor-like sword light that pierced through his body. Big brother. The other vampire never dreamed that his big brother's body would be pierced by the opponent in such a short time. Although he knew that a vampire's body was extremely tough and couldn't be killed as long as his core wasn't destroyed, seeing his big brother's miserable condition made him almost lose his mind. Feather. Its wings flapped and its feathers shot out in an instant. Its speed was twice as fast as the black arrow energy and it appeared in front of Tang Along in the blink of an eye. life and death. It was close at hand. Tang Along could even feel the shadow of death looming over his head. Unfortunately, he didn't panic because he knew that as long as he lost his calm, he would be closer to death. Looking at the black mass of feather lights shooting towards him, he suddenly waved his right arm. As his fingers continuously formed seals, the hurricane and fiery rain that filled the sky instantly condensed together, forming a long flaming saber that was enveloped by the hurricane. It was a divine ability. It was something he comprehended while fighting fierce beasts in the pocket world. It was also the only divine ability he had comprehended alone. The flaming saber flashed and cut the vampire's body. The speed of the feathers in the sky slowed down several times as the vampire's body was cut. Block it. He instantly released his true essence to form a transparent light shield in front of him. The moment he coughed up a mouthful of blood, his body flew backward and heavily fell to the ground from the sky. Had it not been for his physique, which had been tempered to a very strong state, he would have been smashed into a meat patty by this heavy fall. Humph! Standing in the courtyard, Tan Xiu looked at the vampire whose wings were destroyed. He didn't care about his brother's death and took advantage of Tang Along's fall to escape. Suddenly, a dagger pierced through its body, shattering the core in its body. Tang Xiu came to Tang Along's front and grabbed him from the ground. He looked a bit disappointed when he saw the scars all over his body. He shook his head and said, "If the other vampire didn't try to escape but launched a fierce attack on you, I'm afraid you would have been dead by now. You failed the assessment. I hope you can keep up the good work in the future and don't let me see you fail again." Cough, cough, Tang Along coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood to suppress his churning blood and qi. He then said with a depressed expression, "I'll keep it in mind, master. I'll definitely work hard to sharpen myself and increase my combat experience in the future." Tan Xiu nodded in response. He took out a holy healing pill and stuffed it into his mouth, saying, "I'll give you half an hour to recuperate and then we'll continue our journey. Within 2 months, I will give you a chance to fight. I hope that you will be able to survive in the upcoming battles. As long as you can survive, you'll be able to adapt to the bloody storm when we reach the immortal world in the future." A firm look was revealed in Tang Along's eyes. He had disappointed his master this time and was also very disappointed in himself. Because with his cultivation, if he had more combat experience, he could have easily killed those 2 vampires. Half an hour later, Tang Along jumped up from the ground and respectfully said, "My injuries have mostly healed, master." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "I'll give you another half an hour to recall the previous battle. I hope you can give me at least 3 ways to easily kill those 2 vampires in half an hour." Tang Along sat cross-legged again with a thoughtful look in his eyes. He recalled it bit by bit and deduced it over and over again. Finally, when the first method to easily kill the 2 vampires took shape in his mind, a look of shame appeared on his handsome face. A few minutes later, he thought of the second method. 15 minutes later, Tang Along finally came up with the third method. However, he didn't stop and continued to ponder and deduce. The speed of his deduction continued to accelerate and the inspiration in his mind kept bursting out. In just half an hour, he had come up with 11 ways to easily kill the 2 vampires. When he looked up at Tan Xiu again, the shame on his face had replaced all other expressions. Chapter 1242. Tang Along got up again. A glint flickered in his eyes as he looked at the indifferent Tan Xiu and respectfully said, "I really want another chance to fight like this, master." "How many do you have in mind?" asked Tan Xiu. 11. Replied Tang Along respectfully. Tan Xiu raised his brows and nodded with satisfaction. "Well, you didn't disappoint me. Since you want another chance, then I'll give it to you. Let's go." "Where to?" asked Tang Along. "I'm going to give you a chance," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. 2 days later, Tan Xiu appeared in H country with Tang Along. As 2 cars arrived at the airport, the master and disciple duo quickly rushed toward their destination. "Have you investigated everything?" Sitting in the car, Tan Xiu's eyes swept the scenery outside the window and slowly asked. The Great Tang Empire's intelligence officer respectfully handed a document to Tan Xiu and reported, Your Majesty, the Shiman Wandai clan has set up a secret base in the southern region. Each of the assassins trained there are elites among the elites. There are 23 instructors and stewards in charge of training these assassins, all of whom are cultivators. 5 of them are comparable to Golden Core stage cultivators. Apart from the 2 experts of the Shiman Wandai clan whose whereabouts are erratic, they can be regarded as the top experts in H country. The Shiman Wandai clan doesn't seem to be a surname of H country, does it? Asked Tan Xiu. The intelligence officer shook his head and said, this clan was originally not from H country, but from China. Just like the Joyous Palace of Japan, they couldn't stay in China in the past, so they moved to H country. After nearly 100 years of secret development, they led the original country to split and eventually formed an independent H country. It can be said that the Shiman Wandai clan controls the real power in H country. Further, according to our investigation, the ancestors of the Shiman Wandai clan should be from China's Sichuan province. What they are best at is changing their faces. Change my face. Suddenly, Tan Xiu recalled the special technique that was passed down among the people in Sichuan province of Huaxia. Suddenly, another idea flashed in his mind. He immediately smiled and said, it seems that the plastic surgery skills of Country H didn't come out of nowhere. Change my face. It's really interesting. Hearing this, the intelligence officer couldn't help but laugh and say, Your Majesty, what you said really makes sense. I'm really stupid to not have thought of this in advance. Southern District. The Shiman Wandai family's secret assassination base was located in a forest along the coast. The mountain here was not high, but it was densely forested and occupied a large area. When the car stopped at the fork of the road at the foot of a mountain, the intelligence agent got off and opened the rear door for Tan Xiu, respectfully saying, Your Majesty, this is the most suitable place if you want to take the shortcut. However, according to our people's investigation, if we want to enter the secret base from here, we need to pass through 6 lines of defense. Do you want me to lead some people to clear out all the enemies at the defensive line? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, No need. You can just wait here. Having said that, he quickly disappeared into the forest along with Tang Along. There was a winding river with clear and transparent water with some colorful fishes swimming in it without any worries. Several snow-white rabbits were running along the riverbank, scaring the birds nearby and causing them to fly away. Master. Tang Along stopped and looked at the 2 military tents on the other side of the river, as well as several strong men in black uniforms near the tents. I won't kill anyone after stepping into this place, said Tan Xiu lightly. Everyone here will be your enemy. Go inside. I want to see you sharpen yourself and become stronger through fighting. Understood. Tang Along nodded. A glint flashed in his eyes and his figure shot out like a sharp arrow and instantly appeared outside the tents on the other side of the river. A sharp dagger appeared in his hand out of thin air. With a flash of the blade, the throats of 2 strong men in black uniforms were easily torn open. Who are you? Angry roars came from the surroundings. However, they were speaking in Korean, which Tan Xiu and Tang Along couldn't understand. Tang Along simply ignored the roars and his figure kept flickering, causing the big men in black uniforms to fall to the ground. After all the big men were killed, Tan Xiu appeared in front of Tang Along and indifferently said, You're a cultivator, not a killer. You're a cultivator, not a killer. Tang Along stared blankly for a moment, but he immediately understood Tan Xiu's meaning. He nodded and said, I understand what you mean, Master. I'll use the means only cultivators can use to kill the enemies. No need. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, Use the means you're good at to kill the enemies. I'm telling you this because I want you to be vigilant at all times. If the enemy hides his strength and you use sneak attacks and assassinations, you'll suffer a great loss if you only use a dagger to kill them. Tang Along gave it a thought and felt that Tan Xiu's words were very reasonable, so he immediately unleashed his immortal sword and controlled it to fly around him before he went deeper. The second blockade line. Tang Along directly manipulated the immortal sword and slaughtered his way forward, killing more than a dozen men in black uniforms in an instant. The second blockade line. The third blockade line. The sixth blockade line. After the blood droplets on the immortal sword were shaken away by the sword and returned to Tang Along's body, Tan Xiu followed him and looked at the corpses on the ground. He shook his head and said, "They're just some ants. The most powerful ones among them only cultivate some qigong and can only be compared to some martial arts grandmasters. However, the murderous aura around them is very strong. They should be ruthless characters who have killed a lot of people." Tang Along took out the map given by the intelligence personnel and carefully observed it for more than 10 seconds before he found the location of the secret base. He no longer said anything and directly flew there. 2 minutes later, Tang Along appeared in the sky above the base. Dozens of figures flashed lightning fast and surrounded him in a flash. At the same time, over 100 assassins who were undergoing training arrived one after another. Soon, they surrounded the area with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. "Who dares to break into my training base?" A voice that sounded like a great bell came from the deepest part of the base. Immediately after, 3 figures flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared above Tang Along. They looked down at him with murderous intent but didn't launch an attack immediately. Tang Along frowned. Although he knew that this was a training camp for assassins on the way here, he didn't expect that there would be so many people here. What was most inconceivable to him was that there were a lot of cultivators here. Even those assassins had faint true chi fluctuations, indicating that even though they were martial artists, they still possessed great strength. However, according to the intelligence, there should be 2 very strong experts here. Tang Along took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Slay the evil and defend the Tao. I'm here to pick a fight. Who dares to come up and fight me?" "What?" Everyone in the training camp wore a strange expression. They never dreamed that there would be a stupid brat who jumped out at this time and said something stupid like slaying the evil and defending the Tao. Did he just say that in Mandarin? Suddenly, some sharp-minded people noticed the situation. High up in the sky, among the 3 people who were glaring at Tang Along covetously, the black-robed burly man with curly hair looked contemptuous. He couldn't sense any energy fluctuation coming from Tang Along's body. He even suspected that this brat had come here through some unguarded place and was just a blind cat bumping into a dead mouse. "Brat, are you from China?" The burly man squinted his eyes and asked in Mandarin in a gloomy tone. "That's right. I'm from China." Tang Along nodded. The burly man asked, "Did you come to our place by a freak combination of factors? Or did you come here with a purpose? Or did you know that we're here before and came here to make trouble?" "My master despised me for having no actual combat experience, so he sent me here to pick a fight," said Tang Along. "You're from an assassin training camp, so you're not good people. I've sworn to be a good person who slays the evil and defends the Tao. That's why I'm going to kill all of you so that you can be good people in your next life." Ha ha ha, the instructors and assassins in the surroundings who could understand Mandarin burst into laughter. They looked at Tang Along as though he was a fool. The burly man standing high in the air shook his head with a wry smile and waved his hand. "Who's going to send him to the Western Paradise?" "Me." A bare-chested man with a hideous grin on his face instantly dashed to the front of Tang Along. The dagger in his hand kept flying and instantly attacked Tang Along's neck. Puff, a faint sound was heard. It wasn't Tang Along's neck that was torn, but the immortal sword Tang Along wielded and directly pierced through the man's body, piercing his heart and killing him in one blow. The sudden turn of events made the smiles on everyone's faces freeze. They stared with wide eyes as though they couldn't believe what they saw. "He's dead." A rather famous cadet of the training camp was killed so easily by the other party. What the hell was that damn sword? How can it fly in the air? In the air. The 3 big men exchanged dismayed glances with a solemn look on their faces. The burly man in the middle shouted fiercely, "Brat, that sword of yours should be a magic tool, right? I can sense your aura. It's very powerful." Are you a cultivator from Huaxia? Yes, replied Tang Along calmly. We have no enmity with you Chinese cultivators, neither do we. Why did you break into our camp and kill our people? Asked the burly man in a deep voice. Aren't you afraid of causing a war between our countries? Chapter 1243. Tang Along looked a bit nervous, but his nervousness vanished in an instant after hearing the burly man's words. Instead, he smiled and said, You're just a bunch of rats who can only hide in dark and damp corners, plotting conspiracies and secretly slaughtering others. How can rats compete with dragons? Do you think you can set off a storm in a great country like China? After a short pause, Tang Along seemed to have thought of something and his smile suddenly turned a bit thicker. His body gently floated up and came to the same height as the three men. Then, he leisurely said with a smile, If the information I got is correct, the master behind you, Shimen Wandai's clan, is he from China, yes? However, back then, they could no longer survive in Huaxia country, so they were like street rats, fleeing to this tiny island country in a sorry state. If I can kill you, it'll be considered as doing something for my people. The burly man's expression greatly changed and disbelief filled his eyes. It must be noted that this matter was absolutely confidential. Even the ordinary members of the Shimen Wandai clan didn't know about it. Only dozens of core members of the clan had access to this secret. However, how did this guy know about it? Who sold out the top secret of the Shimen Wandai clan? Kill him. The burly man took a deep breath and shouted fiercely. An endless stream of concealed weapons and firearms with silencers were fired at Tang Along, who was tens of meters high in the air. His current position was like a living target with no cover at all. However, as he instantly released his true essence, the water droplets that appeared out of thin air began to spread crazily and eventually formed a water wall in front of him. Ants! Tang Along snorted coldly and recalled the combat technique he deduced last time. He recalled the scene where he killed a large group of fierce beasts in the pocket world. He immediately waved his arm and water arrows broke free from the water wall and quickly shot toward the hundreds of people below. It was like the wind blowing the wheat. Hundreds of trained assassins were pierced by the water arrows and their lives were taken. The dozens of cultivators and instructors in the surroundings didn't even have the chance to rescue them. They could only watch helplessly as the elites they had trained for several years were killed. Their anger nearly made them go crazy. Kill him! Dozens of instructors were ferocious as they took out their weapons and rushed at Tang Along. The moment Tang Along came here, he began to deduce the combat strategy in his mind. After a short conversation, he already had a way to kill the enemy. Therefore, he was very calm at the moment. Even his pupils began to contract slightly as he observed the trajectory of the dozens of cultivators pouncing on him. He calculated their speed, the distance between them, and the direction they would appear in the next moment. Sword-splitting technique. Tang Along waved his arms and his immortal sword instantly turned into dozens of sword lights that formed a strange killing trajectory in the air and pierced through the chests of dozens of people in an instant. It was his master's wife, Ouyang Lulu, who taught him this terrifying sword-splitting technique. As for the mind calculation technique he used to deduce in his mind, it was his master's wife, Gu Yan, who taught him. These were two arts. This was the first time he had used it, but he was very satisfied with the results. This was because he discovered that the sword-splitting technique was indeed a killer move, and the mind calculation technique could make his thoughts clear and move as fast as lightning. How is this possible? The eyes of the three experts in the air were filled with disbelief. They never dreamed that this young man, who was probably less than 20 years old, would be able to unleash such a terrifying killer move. They didn't expect that so many experts would be killed in an instant. Heartache. Anger. Except for the burly middle-aged man who didn't move, the other two swooped down like goshawks. They couldn't wait to tear Tang Along into pieces. Standing under a tree 2 kilometers away, Tan Xiu quietly watched the scene in front of him. He was as clear as a mirror about the killer move Tang Along used. He naturally recognized that it was a sure-kill sword technique that Ouyang Lulu had created after studying various sword manipulation techniques in the library. However, he didn't expect that Ouyang Lulu would teach this sword manipulation technique to Tang Along. It seems that my idea of cultivating Tang Along has been found out by them. That's good too. Only when Tang Along becomes stronger can he become my right-hand man in the future. Only then can he command the army for the great Tang Empire. Tan Xiu's eyes then fell on the jade pendant hanging on Tang Along's waist. The jade pendant was the amulet he gave Tang Along a few hours ago. It could withstand 3 full strikes from a nascent soul stage expert. Only after 3 strikes would it be possible to severely injure or kill Tang Along. However, Tang Along didn't know about it. Boom! The 2 burly men with strength comparable to Golden Core stage experts attacked extremely fast. Their figures were as fast as lightning as they crazily slashed their swords and sabers at Tang Along. If it wasn't for Tang Along's speed, he would have been killed by the 2 weapons. However, despite having the advantage of speed, he was still in a precarious situation as if he could be killed at any time. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. The burly man hovering in the air finally turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of Tang Along in a flash. However, his killer move wasn't his right fist that was bombarding Tang Along, but the shiny silver thread wrapped around his left wrist and the bell tied to the other end of the silver thread. Bam! Tang Along avoided the lightning-fast punch, but he didn't notice the silver thread at first. He didn't notice that the other end of the tens of meters long silver thread had already circled around to attack him from behind. Puff! Coughing up a mouthful of blood, Tang Along felt the pain from the bell's bombardment on his back. He barely managed to maintain his composure and moved in an arc like a falling leaf. However, he was still affected and was stabbed in the waist and arm by the other 2 burly men. Blood dyed Tang Along's clothes red. The pain made him sober and calmer instead. The deduction in his mind was as fast as lightning and his thinking speed was 100 times faster than ordinary people racking their brains. Although his current speed couldn't be compared with the operation of an optical computer, it was still terrifying when it happened to a human being. Keep going. Tang Along seemed to have eyes in the back of his head. The immortal sword in front of him penetrated his left armpit and directly stabbed the abdomen of a burly man. It didn't stop after penetrating his body and cut off the long saber raised by another burly man. Immediately after, the immortal sword sprinted up and seemed to cross 100 feet in an instant, but it was just an illusion. The real immortal sword cut off the right arm of the burly man who couldn't dodge in time. Decagonal sword array. Although Tang Along had only used this move once, he was exceptionally skilled in using it at this moment. Layers upon layers of sword shadows formed a sword formation, enveloping the 3 Golden Core experts within it. Damn it! A cold voice came from 100 meters away. 2 figures flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of the decagonal sword array. A red light shot out from a bronze mirror and instantly broke the sword array. The other hand, holding a heavy hammer, fiercely bombarded the immortal sword. Puff! The heavy hammer was cut in half by the immortal sword, but Tang Along coughed up a mouthful of blood and flew back amidst the humming sound of the immortal sword, hovering around him. How long do you want to hide in the dark, mister? Are you really not afraid that we'll kill this little kid? One of the 2 men who appeared was a white-haired man with a very young face. He coldly looked in Tan Xiu's direction. Whoosh! Tan Xiu instantly appeared nearby and smilingly said, I was worried that the opponents I chose for my disciple were too weak and wouldn't be able to sharpen him. I didn't expect that the 2 of you would appear, so my worries have dissipated. You 2 are quite good. Your strength is comparable to a nascent soul stage cultivator, and you also seem to be proficient in some killing moves. That's great. The white-haired man instantly sent his 3 men 100 meters away. Then, he coldly looked at Tan Xiu and said, Who exactly are you, mister? My Shiman Wandai clan shouldn't have any grudges with you, right? Why did you suddenly come here? To kill our people. The weak can only serve as stepping stones for the strong. Tan Xiu chuckled. The reason why I chose you is that you can sharpen my disciple. Of course, you're not good people either. All of your hands are stained with blood, so I won't feel any guilt if I kill you. In fact, I even feel somewhat satisfied. That's because killing one bad person can save countless good people. Do you really think we're afraid of you? Shouted the white-haired man angrily. You're definitely afraid of me, but I can assure you that I won't interfere in the fight between my disciple and you. Tan Xiu chuckled. As long as you can kill him, even if you find a way to live, you'll still have to die. Arrogant. The other man, whose strength was comparable to a nascent soul stage cultivator, seemed to be able to spurt out flames of anger from his eyes. His figure instantly appeared in front of Tan Xiu and the long saber on his back instantly slashed toward Tan Xiu's head. If so, then I'll lighten the burden on my disciple. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and gently waved his hand in front of his eyes. A wind blade instantly swept across the man's waist. One strike. Just one strike and the man's waist was cut in half. Second brother. Sir. The white-haired man and the other three all had looks of disbelief on their faces. They pounced towards the man who had been cut in half in a panic, only to discover that the man's internal organs had fallen out and blood was gushing out. Don't bother thinking about it, said Tan Xiu lightly. If he was cut in half by an ordinary weapon, he might still be able to keep his life. But I directly extinguished his life in an instant. Even if you're the reincarnation of a perfected golden immortal, there's no way for you to save him. I've been writing for a long time and almost never played games. Recently, I learned that a lot of authors and their fans would form groups to play games, and some of them even open a live broadcast, which is a good way to close the distance. I just happened to follow a game that will be released at 1400 hours today. The name is Shadow Warrior and the graphics are quite good. You can search for it and follow it. I've already created a character with the ID, Celestial Quiet Knight, and I'm ready to play the game. Of course, I still need a group of experienced players like you to lead the way. I heard that a lot of authors will go to Shadow Warrior tomorrow to form an army and even set up a subgroup in the game. I can't be a coward. I want to see if my brothers are good enough. When the time comes, I'll enter the game and fight with them. How about it? Let's form an army called Return from the Celestial World. What do you think? The name should have the word Celestial World in it. For example, my ID is Celestial Quiet Knight. It's fun to play games with more people. Let's form a gang as soon as we enter Shadow Warrior. Chapter 1244. The gray-haired man's eyes were full of fear. He was well aware of his second brother's strength, yet this mysterious young man killed him in one blow. This showed that the other party's strength was extremely terrifying and definitely not someone they could contend with. Run! He couldn't care less about his second brother's corpse and instantly cast a secret technique to increase his speed several times and fled to the distance lightning fast. Tan Xiu sneered coldly. As he cast a seal, the gray-haired man felt a stream of qi wrapping around his waist and instantly pulled him backward. Even though he struggled desperately, it didn't have the slightest effect. Ground confinement. Tan Xiu flicked his finger and instantly drew an array pattern that enveloped the area within a kilometer radius. Whether it was the gray-haired man or the other three, all of them were trapped inside the array. You can't break this array, so the only way for you to survive is to kill my disciple. Tan Xiu chuckled. If you can't kill him, you'll be killed by him in the end. The same trick was used again. But the effect was very remarkable. After hearing Tan Xiu's words, the four people suppressed their fear and directly attacked Tang Along. Their speed was very fast and their attack power was also very strong. Coupled with the four of them joining forces, they instantly forced Tang Along into a dangerous situation within a kilometer radius and almost got himself killed several times. At first, Tang Along tried his best to dodge. Gradually, he adapted to the rhythm of being besieged. Even his deduction speed became faster and faster, so much so that he began to counterattack. Although the counterattack was very weak at first, it continued to increase. In just 10 minutes, he had completely adapted to the fight and even suppressed the four people to the point that they couldn't even lift their heads. It's about time, right? Tan Xiu was very satisfied watching up to this point. Die. The immortal sword controlled by Tang Along instantly erupted. It was as though a sun burst out in front of the four people. Immediately after, the four people's pupils shrunk. They watched helplessly as a sword shadow pierced their eyes. Despite their desperate efforts, they still couldn't dodge it. Puff. 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 Four bodies were decapitated. After killing the four people, Tang Along wiped the bloodstains on his face and released his true essence to blow up his blood-soaked clothes. Then, he cast a water elemental technique to wash his body and quickly took out some clothes from his interspatial ring and put them on. Master. Tang Along came to the front of Tan Xiu and touched the shocking wound on his left cheek with a particularly bright smile. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said, "Your combat skills have improved very fast, and your ability to adapt to combat is also very strong." However, this was far from enough. "In the next few days, I'll take you to a few more places. When you get there, you can fight a few more battles, and then you can carry out the next mission." "Do you have a task for me, Master?" asked Tang Along curiously. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "The task I'm going to give you is very heavy. It's related to the life and death of tens of thousands of people. Therefore, the most important thing for you now is to increase your experience and personally experience the atmosphere of life and death on the battlefield. Keep in mind that although it's a task for you, it's also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. Grasp it and satisfy me, and you'll get endless benefits." "All right." Tang Along nodded repeatedly and his expression became particularly firm. Over 10 days later, Tan Xiu took Tang Along to travel all over Asia. Through the Great Tang Empire's intelligence network, they found 5 other places with cultivators, and they were all evil places. Tang Along's speed of transformation was so fast that even Tang Xiu was secretly startled by it. It was the jade pendant. It had blocked 2 fatal injuries for Tang Along in the past 10 days and was still hanging on his waist. However, there were now a few cracks on it. In a valley basin, Tang Along stood on the bloody ground of corpses and wiped the blood off his face with his hand. There was still a bit of killing intent in his eyes as he looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "Where are we going next, Master?" "That's enough. It's time for us to go back." Tan Xiu shook his head. Tang Along stared blankly for a moment. His tense expression immediately relaxed and the killing intent in his eyes gradually dissipated. After washing himself with a spell, he changed his clothes and took a holy healing pill. Then, he respectfully said, "Master, I've fully adapted to the killing atmosphere in the past 10 days and my combat experience has also improved. Now I finally understand that I used to be like guarding a golden mountain, yet I still couldn't eat my fill. It was because I didn't know how to use the gold on the mountain to buy food. Your potential has been stimulated and you've completed the initial transformation in just 10 days. Tan Xiu lightly smiled. "That's good and will be of great benefit to you in the future. However, don't be arrogant and complacent. You should be well aware that you would have died several times if it weren't for the amulet I gave you. Therefore, don't take it lightly no matter what kind of enemy you face in the future. You must plan carefully and go all out to kill enemies of any level." "I understand, Master." Tang Along nodded respectfully. In the past 10 days, all the major forces in the entire Asian region had holed up like turtles. Everyone knew that a mysterious assassin had appeared. He was very powerful, so powerful that it made them fearful. Furthermore, the tragic scene of the massacre was also reported to the leaders of the various forces. After seeing it, all of them fell into silence for a long time and then chose to lie dormant. None of the forces attempted to investigate the identity of this mysterious Grim Reaper. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but that they didn't dare to. Even more so, they were afraid that they would provoke this Grim Reaper and get rid of them together. 9 Dragons Island. The first thing Tan Xiu did after returning to 9 Dragons Island was to issue an order. The 4 major corps of the military were to be mobilized together, with each corps infiltrating a different region. There were a total of 4 regions, respectively targeting the Pyramid, the Crusader Consortium, the Stygian Club, and House Dolan. Half a month later. Country, Las Vegas. This was the largest city in Nevada and also a city with a very high international reputation. It was a well-known fake city with the gambling industry as the center for tourism, shopping, and vacation. It was also known as the world's entertainment capital and marriage capital. St. Victor Casino. The largest and most luxurious casino in Las Vegas welcomed more than tens of thousands of guests from all over the world every day. Some people became rich overnight here, while others became penniless. In the VIP room on the 3rd floor. Thick beads of sweat appeared on Du Chengfeng's forehead and his face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Disbelief flashed in his eyes as he looked up at the youth in front of him who should be less than 20 years old. On both sides of the gambling table, a white man and a black man were also looking at the smiling and childish youth with fear in their eyes. You owe me money, but you'll have to pay interest. Each of you owes me $8 billion. If you don't have the money to pay me back, you'll have to pay with your life here. Tang Along took out a cigarette, lit it up, took a deep puff, and said with a smile. You cheated. The black man suddenly got up and angrily glared at Tang Along and roared. The white man also stood up and angrily shouted, That's right. You cheated. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to get this deck of cards. Oriental brat, do you know how serious the consequences of cheating in front of Asda will be? A look of disappointment appeared on Tang Along's face. He shook his head inside. It looks like you're going to renege on your debt. If my memory serves me right, I'm afraid the owner of this casino won't let you off even if I don't kill you. Don't tell me you really want money over your life. Do you really want to die here? The white man turned to look at a middle-aged man and sternly shouted, Manager Philip, I need your casino to guarantee that this kid cheated. He needs to be punished. Near the gambling table. A middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses with an old-fashioned look slowly shook his head and said, He didn't cheat. There are 16 surveillance cameras and 16 casino staff in this VIP room. Even the dealer didn't find out that he cheated. Hence, you've lost today's gamble. Of course, you'll have to pay up if you lose, even though $8 billion is not a small amount. Did you hear that? Tang Along smiled. Since you've lost, you must pay the price. I'm an easygoing person who likes money and doesn't like killing people. So, as long as each of you pays me $8 billion, you can leave here alive. Otherwise, not only will you die, but your friends and relatives will also die. A desperate look appeared in Du Chengfeng's eyes. He took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat on his face and bitterly said, Little brother, as the saying goes, don't involve your family. I admit defeat today. I don't have that much money. I can only gather $300 million at most. Kill me if you want to kill someone. But don't hurt my family. Kill him. God damn it. The white man and the black man pulled their pistols from their waists at the same time, while their 8 bodyguards also pulled their pistols from their waists and aimed at Tang Along, ready to shoot. Bang, 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 a series of gunshots rang out and the white man and the black man fell into a pool of blood at the same time. Their 8 bodyguards were also ruthlessly killed by the 10 security personnel of the casino. Du Chengfeng's 2 bodyguards also pulled their pistols at this moment, but they didn't pull the trigger and just guarded Du Chengfeng on both sides as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Little brother. Du Chengfeng's lips squirmed a few times before he finally shouted in Mandarin. He felt that this language should be his last life-saving card since he suspected that Tang Along was a Chinese. It was also his last gamble. He might be able to keep his life if he won, but he would probably die here if he lost. Chapter 1245. Tang Along slowly shook his head, but the smile on his face didn't diminish as he said, It's only right and proper for a bet to be a loser. Don't come here to play since you don't have that much capital. You should be a Chinese, right? I'll give you one last chance considering that we're both Chinese. The money you owe me will be halved, but you have to come up with at least $2.4 billion US. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave this place alive. Du Qingfeng nearly cried. Where was he supposed to get $2.4 billion US? Even if he sold himself, it wouldn't be worth that much money. You don't have it? If not, I'm afraid that the next few days next year will be your death anniversary, said Tang Along with a smile. Du Qingfeng was anxious and blurted out, yes, I do. I have a way. The arc on Tang Along's mouth deepened and he smilingly said, all right, I'll give you half an hour. I want to see the money transferred into my account within that time. Bam! The VIP lounge's door was forcefully pushed open as Tang Guang in a white robe walked in from the outside with a beaming smile on his face. He shook his head after seeing the scene inside and said, young martial uncle, I'm afraid the battles in other places will end soon if you keep playing like this. Half an hour. Let's play for another half an hour, said Tang Along with a faint smile. Tang Guang pulled a chair and kicked the black man's body to the side. He then looked at Du Qingfeng and smilingly asked, what's the matter with this guy? He owes me some money, so I'm waiting for him to raise it, said Tang Along with a smile. There are 29 minutes left. Du Qingfeng shuddered inwardly and his lips squirmed a few times. Finally, he took out his mobile phone with a panicked expression. After thinking for a few seconds, he dialed a number and called out after it was picked up, Ah Hang, save me. I need money. 4. No, number 2. $1 billion US. I'm going to die if I don't have enough money. You're gambling again. An indifferent voice came from the phone. I was just going to have some fun, said Du Qingfeng with a sad face. But I never thought that I would lose so badly. Ah Hang, I'm your little uncle, and I'm your only uncle. Save me. I'll listen to you in the future as long as you save me. I don't have enough money. A stiff voice came from the phone again. Du Qingfeng's complexion greatly changed as he shouted, Ah Hang, your father, Han Jintong, turned hostile and ruthless, but you can't be as heartless as him. Save me, I'll listen to you from now on. Even if you want me to apologize to your father, I'll be willing. How long? A cold voice came from the phone again. Du Qingfeng was delighted and hurriedly said, half an hour, no, there's only 28 minutes left. The other party said that if I didn't have $2.4 billion in his account within 28 minutes, he would kill me. Ah Hang, 2 people and their 8 bodyguards have already been killed. Hurry up. Got it. Tang Guang, who was sitting a few meters away, stared blankly at Du Qingfeng. It was only after Du Qingfeng put away his phone that he frowned and asked in a deep voice, I just heard you talking to the other party. You mentioned someone named Han Jintong. Who is he to you? He's my brother-in-law, said Du Qingfeng. What? Do you know him? Then, who is this Ah Hang you just called? Asked Tang Guang again. He's Han Jintong's son and my nephew, Han Hang, answered Du Qingfeng. Tang Guang took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, answer my last question. What's the name of Han Jintong's granddaughter? Han Qinggu. Du Qingfeng answered without hesitation. Tang Guang's complexion changed and he looked at Tang Along, saying, Martial uncle, let him go. Tang Along frowned. A thoughtful expression flickered on his face as he slowly nodded and said, Du Qingfeng, I'll spare you this time for the sake of my martial nephew. Get the hell out of here. Never in his wildest dreams did Du Qingfeng expect that this handsome young man who just came in would agree to let him go just by asking him a few questions. It was $2.4 billion. Could it be that they would give him up just like that? Suddenly, his expression slightly shifted and he hurriedly asked, Who are you people? Do you know that girl Qinggu? Shut up. Tang Guang's face turned cold and he shouted in a deep voice, Get the hell out of here. Else I won't mind killing you. Yes. I'll get the hell out of here. Du Qingfeng was startled and hurriedly took his 2 subordinates and fled in a panic. Tang Along glanced at the casino staff and gestured to them. As they left, he curiously asked, "Who's that Han Qinggu, Tang Guang? Is her face worth $4 billion?" Tang Guang sighed inwardly and forced a smile. "Martial uncle, you'd better not mention this name in front of Grand Master. You'd better not tell Grand Master about today's matter. That woman, she's a demon in Grand Master's heart." Tang Along was surprised. He knew that his master, Tan Xiu, had many women, but he had never heard of this Han Qinggu. Demon? What kind of woman is she? How could she become a demon in his master's heart? With a strong curiosity in his heart, he waved his hand to dismiss more than a dozen carefully selected personal guards in the room. After leaving only 2 people in the room, he said, "Tang Guang, tell me what's going on here. At least I'll know how to treat this woman if I have to deal with her somewhere in the future. It stands to reason that I can't tell you about this matter since Grand Master will definitely punish me once he learns about it." Tang Guang forced a wry smile. "However, what you said makes sense, so I'll tell you about it. But you must keep in mind that this matter must never come out of your mouth again." "I will." Tang Along nodded repeatedly. "I don't know about the specific reason either." Tang Guang forced a wry smile and said, "But I do know one thing. This Han Qinggu used to be Grand Master's high school teacher and his class teacher. Later on, Grand Master was admitted to Shanghai University and Han Qinggu pursued him to that university. Originally, all of us thought that Han Qinggu would become Grand Master's woman. But later, she became a taboo in the eyes of all Grand Masters. In short, you must keep in mind that if you see this woman in the future, you must avoid her. Even if you hear news about her, you must pretend that you didn't hear it." This, Tang Along hesitated for a moment before nodding silently. "Let's go. Let's go next door to watch the battle." Next door. The 1,000-square-meter hall was filled with LCD monitors all around. Every monitor showed an unfamiliar place with many cultivators on it. There were a lot of cultivators in the scene. Some belonged to the pyramid, some were from the Crusader Consortium, and some were from the Stygian Club. However, most of them were soldiers from the 4 major corps of the military. Commander-in-Chief, the secret branches of the 3 major organizations have been uprooted by the War Dragon Legion and the Tiger Legion. Their corps executives have also been forced to return to their lair and are now resisting. In addition, the Battle Phoenix Legion has already slaughtered the House of Dolan. All the experts of the House of Dolan have been killed. 2 hours at most. The Pyramid, the Crusader Consortium, and the remaining forces of the Stygian Club will all be wiped out in 2 hours. His Majesty ordered us to investigate the Darkwind organization and we've found their lair. However, the list of spies in various countries has yet to be fully checked. The Intelligence Department sent the news that it will take a few more days. According to the previous battle situation, our losses are not big. The War Dragon Legion lost a total of 6 people, the Tiger Legion lost 9, and the Phoenix Legion lost no one. Commander-in-Chief, the battle plan you drew up was executed perfectly. Do you have any other orders next? Here. It was the temporary command center of the Great Tang Empire's campaign. The people who reported to Tang Along were the men he could train in the next few years. Just advance according to the plan. Tang Along slowly shook his head. Immediately activate the backup force in the second plan should there be an emergency. That's right, have the army members who are proficient in erasing memories taken action? They have. All the ordinary people who found out about the battle have their memories erased. There won't be any problems. Understood. Tang Along nodded without a word. Although he didn't personally go to the battlefield to command, he still had a good grasp of the situation in the 4 battlefields through the monitoring. Even after he issued one order after another, they were finally able to launch a perfect simultaneous attack and achieve great results. Suddenly, "Where's Grand Master?" asked Tang Guang. Tang Along thought for a while and answered, "He should be in Salzburg." "The Stygian Club has vampires?" asked Tang Guang with a frown. Master said that he needs some old acquaintances in Salzburg to help protect China and some relatives of the great Tang Empire's members before he leaves. Tang Along nodded. Grand Master is an affectionate and loyal person, so he naturally doesn't want to worry about leaving. Tang Guang nodded and smilingly said. He already asked Duan Mulin to give him a promise before, and now he's looking for the vampires in Salzburg. That means he wants double insurance. Do you think Master will also bring those vampires to the immortal world? Asked Tang Along. I don't think so. Tang Along shook his head. We have mortal enemies in the immortal world, so he won't take them without absolute trust. Else, if something goes wrong with those vampires and the existence of our great Tang Empire is leaked, we'll be in danger of being consigned to eternal damnation. Got it. Tang Along nodded. 3 hours later. The top 3 superpowers in the world were all slaughtered by the 3 legions of the great Tang Empire's military headquarters. 99% of the cultivators, ability users, and mutated creatures were slaughtered. Shortly after, Tang Along issued the last order. Go all out to investigate the Darkwind's intelligence network in every country in the world and search for the list of their intelligence personnel. Chapter 1246. The Atlantic Ocean. Tens of thousands of islands were scattered all over the vast and misty sea like stars in the sky. They looked like countless colorful jadeite inlaid on the azure sea surface. Yama Island. It was a place that didn't exist in the satellite surveillance, an area shrouded in black smoke all day long, and an island protected by various concealment arrays. This place was the Darkwind Organization's lair. As for some other places that outsiders mistook as Old Chow of the Darkwind Organization, there were even people in charge of those places. It was just a smokescreen used by the Darkwind Organization to confuse the enemy. The entire Yama Island was shrouded in black mist, looking gloomy and terrifying. The castles made of steel had very strange shapes. Some of them looked like a long blade, some looked like a spear, some were triangular, some were diamond-shaped, and most of them were pagoda-shaped. In the central area. It was a pitch-black pagoda-shaped building that was 100 meters tall. It had a total of 19 floors. If someone were to see this black pagoda, they would realize that it was not standing on the ground. Instead, it was floating in the air, 18 meters above the ground. Boom, the pagoda's door at the bottom slowly opened. A mysterious man shrouded in a black robe stepped into the pagoda's door, and the wide pagoda's door slowly closed. The 19th floor. After the mysterious black-robed man entered the door, 18 men and women with different appearances and shrouded in black mist bowed and saluted him. However, he didn't pay attention to the 18 people. He lifted the brim of his hat to reveal a bewitching face. His complexion was pale and blue veins were clearly visible. The red mole on his glabella was glowing with a bewitching light, and there was a red scimitar pattern on his left cheek. He didn't have any eyeballs, and his eye sockets were filled with pitch-black mist that looked like a vortex. The indifferent expression on his face finally changed a bit as he slowly said, "The Pyramid, Crusader Consortium, and the Stygian Club are among the top 3 organizations in the world. To think that the top 3 organizations in the world were uprooted in just a few days. That's really interesting. But that House Dolan also has the qualifications to be annihilated. That's somewhat beyond my expectation." King Yama. A burly and stocky man in a black battle robe raised his hand to stroke his shiny bald head and solemnly said, "According to the identity and origin of those Boy Scouts, we found out through various channels and through the information in the inventory that House Dolan once had some dealings with some people in Huaxia more than 20 years ago. Precisely speaking, it should be a deep hatred between them. What's noteworthy is that when House Dolan was massacred, people who should have died more than 20 years ago." King Yama slightly raised his brows and asked, King Yama. According to the previous intelligence investigation, the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss Tang Xiu should have a deep relationship with the Tang sect, said the burly man in a deep voice. His father, Tang Yunda, was one of the people who appeared on the battlefield. No wonder all the intel operatives of our Darkwind organization in China have been wiped out. Even the many batches of people we've sent there were eventually sunk into the sea, never to be heard from again, said black-robed Yama indifferently. King Tang of Over. Sect of Tang Over. In. King, no wonder all the intelligence agents of our Darkwind organization in China were wiped out, said King Yama indifferently. Even the many batches of people we've sent there were eventually sunk into the sea without any news. King Yama, those Boy Scouts may be many in number, but their individual strength is very average. King Yama sneered and said, you think you can kill them all with your current strength, hey who? Are you kidding me? Ants can even bite an elephant to death, not to mention that those Boy Scouts are not ants. The weakest among them is at the Golden Core stage, and some of the stronger ones have even reached the Spirit Formation stage. What? The burly man's expression froze and disbelief appeared on his face. He hurriedly exclaimed, I didn't find any Spirit Formation stage experts. Could it be that the generals of the three armies are all Spirit Formation stage cultivators? King Yama no longer paid attention to him and shifted to a petite woman among the 18 people and lightly asked, hey who, have there been any movements on our side recently? The masked petite woman said, ever since that mysterious female cultivator massacred everyone on the 4th hidden island 3 months ago, there hasn't been any abnormalities. It's just that our Darkwind's intel operatives in various countries have sent back news that they are being watched. I've ordered all of them to stay dormant, but it's likely that many of them have been exposed. King Yama was silent for a long time. Then, he angrily rubbed his brows and said, order all our core members to withdraw to the first hidden island and wait for further orders. As for the rest, give them all up. Give them all up. All 18 people, including Hei Hu, looked incredulous. It must be noted that it was not easy for them to establish the Darkwind organization. It took them decades to build a complete intel network around the world, yet they were going to give it up now. Wouldn't all their previous efforts be in vain? I understand what you're thinking, said Yama with a forced smile. But we established the Darkwind organization to monitor the cultivation forces in the world, earn money, and get a lot of cultivation resources. We've accumulated a lot of resources, and our surveillance range has been forced to shrink. Even the emergence of this terrifying force is not something we can contend with. Hence, it's time to sacrifice pawns to save the king. Is that Tang sect really that powerful? Asked Hei Hu curiously. It's no longer called Tang sect now, said Yama slowly. What's it called then? Asked Hei Hu. The Great Tang Empire. Yama's tone was a bit unwilling, but he still answered slowly. The Great Tang Empire. The 18 people exchanged glances with disbelief in their eyes. This name reminded them of a terrible thing. Could it be that some cultivators wanted to establish a nation of cultivators? If this nation was established and they had a strong army, they would probably be able to easily rule the entire earth, wouldn't they? How much courage do they have to dare to establish a nation? Murmured Hei Hu. Yama pointed to the virtual screen and said in a deep voice, 150,000 child cultivators is already a terrifying number. Who can guarantee that the Great Tang Empire doesn't have any other cultivator legions? Even if they do show these armed forces, how powerful will this force become if they are given a few years, decades, or even 100 years? Most importantly, the massacre of the three major forces and House Dolan is clearly a training exercise for the higher-ups of this force. They want these children to experience the flames of war and quickly transform into real warriors. Ding, 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 the crisp sound of a bell rang out as soon as Yama finished speaking. In an instant, the expressions of the 18 people except for Yama drastically changed. It was the Nether Bell. The Nether Bell was the outermost layer of the underworld grand array that Yama had arranged through heaven-defying means. It had rung 4 times in the past hundreds of years, and each time a great enemy came, the Darkwind organization would face a frenzied slaughter and suffer huge losses. Yama slowly closed his eyes and murmured, it seems that their ultimate target is still us. Since this battle is unavoidable, let's open the passage to the underworld. If we win, we'll stay in the human world, but if we lose, we'll go back. Suddenly, Hei Hu's expression drastically changed. He pointed to the virtual screen and shouted, "Look, Yama." Yama instantly opened his eyes. When his gaze followed the direction of Heihu's finger, his body suddenly trembled. He saw tens of thousands of child cultivators on the virtual screen. They were floating in the air on frisbees. Even from the perspective of God, he could see that these tens of thousands of people had arranged a majestic battle formation around the number one hidden island. 8 strangely shaped war chariots appeared behind the battle formation. In an instant, Yama was keenly aware that these tens of thousands of cultivator soldiers were not the 150,000 cultivators who had slaughtered the 3 major forces and House Dolan. How many legions do they have? How many cultivator soldiers are there? Even though Yama was experienced and knowledgeable, he was still shocked by the number. He came from the 9 Nether Underworld and was a powerful powerhouse there. But what he knew was that the number of ghost cultivators in the entire 9 Nether Underworld was definitely no more than 200,000. It must be noted that the total area of the 9 Nether Underworld was thousands of times larger than Earth, and the number of ghost bodies there was also thousands of times more than the number of humans on Earth. Furthermore, he felt that the military strength of the Great Tang Empire would be enough to attack the 9 Nether Underworld in a few decades or even a century. Array. If anyone in the Great Tang Empire is proficient in array formations, then we'll evacuate immediately. If not, we can rely on array formations to turn the situation around. Yama was nervous and immediately issued an order. The moonlight was hazy. When the vast universe was shrouded in darkness, a total of 50,000 soldiers of the Martial Warrior Legion surrounded the number one hidden island in the vast sea. Whoosh! A war chariot quickly flew over the sea and quickly appeared in front of the Martial Warrior Legion. As the door opened, Tang Along, who exuded a scholarly aura, appeared in front of everyone with a smile while fiddling with a jade flute in his hand. Commander. 5 figures quickly arrived and quickly saluted Tang Along. How's the situation here? Asked Tang Along with a faint smile. Is there anyone from the Dark Wind here? Tang Jin, who was now 13 or 14 years old and dressed in a black uniform, shook his head and said, according to the reconnaissance aircraft, there are a total of 162 people on this island. All of them are holed up in the center of the island. The thermal imaging energy monitor shows that there are 142 cultivators among them, and the strongest among them should be comparable to Golden Core stage experts. However, after we surrounded this place, no one else came out. Also, this island is protected by an array formation, so we haven't launched an attack yet. An array formation? Tang Along smiled. He had gained a lot from studying array formations recently. Now that there was a ready-made array here, he wanted to test his attainments in array formations. Chapter 1247. Yama Island. Shrouded in a black robe, King Yama's eyes flickered as he looked at the scene outside the first concealed island on the virtual screen. His mind was constantly thinking about something. The strength of the Great Tang Empire had already made him secretly fearful. However, his last 2 trump cards prevented him from leading a large number of his men to escape to the 9 Nether Underworld. The first trump card was the geomancy array he had set up outside Yama Island. It had a total of 18 layers, and the deeper it was, the more powerful it was. Even the innermost array couldn't be broken unless one had the power close to that of an immortal. The second trump card was his own strength. Although he hadn't reached the immortal stage yet, he was still comparable to a great ascension stage cultivator. With his own strength, even if he were to face an army of tens of thousands of cultivators, he would still be able to fight and leave at will. Through his observation, King Yama found that the most powerful expert in the Great Tang Empire was only at the nascent soul stage. However, those nascent soul stage experts were very young in terms of age. Therefore, he was wary of whether there were more powerful existences in the Great Tang Empire. If there were, then what stage had their cultivation reached? What is he doing, King Yama? Black Fox, who was standing on the left side of King Yama, asked curiously after her eyes were fixed on the virtual screen. King Yama followed the direction of Black Fox's finger and frowned slightly when he saw the scholarly figure displayed on the virtual screen. Could it be that he is studying the formation that he has set up? The array I set up on the first concealed island may be simple, but ordinary cultivators can't break it. Only a spirit formation stage powerhouse can barely break it after a long period of bombardment with a top-grade magic artifact. He's just a kid. I'm afraid he's only at the nascent soul stage at most. How could he know about arrays? How could he possibly break the array I set up myself? Thinking up to this point, King Yama looked disdainful and lightly said, "He's just putting on an act." Judging from his appearance, he seems to be the commander of this army of cultivators. But even so, he's still too young. How could a little boy like him break the array I set up myself? He's actually breaking the array? Black Fox asked incredulously. King Yama sneered and said, "It's just a useless effort. I'll let him see the formation I've set up so that he'll feel a sense of reverence in his heart and leave as soon as possible." Hu let out a smile and respectfully said, "King Yen Wang, the array you've arranged is absolutely profound and mighty. Not to mention that little kid, even if an even more powerful expert tried to break the formation, I'm afraid that they wouldn't be able to shake the formation at all." "That's right." The other 17 people nodded in agreement with Black Fox. King Yama revealed a smile and said, "Just wait and see. Soon, all of them would attack the formation. I guarantee that even if tens of thousands of them attack together, it will take them a long time to break the formation that I've set up on the first hidden island." Suddenly, less than 5 seconds after Yama's voice fell, a scene appeared on the light screen. The light shield that originally enveloped the first hidden island quickly dissipated like snow under the sun. In just a few breaths, the light shield disappeared without a trace. "What's the situation?" A strange look appeared in Hu's eyes as he asked. King Yama's face turned dark. Deep anger and shame made him feel uncomfortable inside. Just a moment ago, he ridiculed the other party with a contemptuous expression. In the end, just as he finished speaking, the other party broke the formation all by himself. That's right. It was indeed broken. The other party didn't use any force and easily broke it just by comprehending the principles of the array he set up. Fucking, damn it. King Yama suppressed his boiling blood and tried his best not to spurt out blood in front of his subordinates. However, his eyes were full of murderous intent when he looked at Tang Along on the light screen. On the first hidden island. Tang Along wiped the sweat on his forehead and exhaled a long breath. Although he had been studying array formations recently and had learned many profound principles of array formations, it was still difficult for him to personally break an array formation. If it weren't for his master, Tan Xiu, who taught him some array principles that were somewhat similar to the one in front of him, he wouldn't have been able to break it in a short time. He hovered in the air. Tang Along stretched his muscles and then straightened his face and shouted in a deep voice, "All troops, heed my order. Capture all the members of the Dark Wind on this island. If you encounter any resistance, kill without mercy." Immediately, tens of thousands of soldiers on arrow gliders arranged themselves in an orderly formation. Even though they were attacking from all directions, their overall formation was still intact. Surrender or die. A cold shout came out of Tang Jin's mouth. In the next moment, the 50,000 soldiers of the martial army shouted the same words. The rolling sound waves were deafening and went straight to the sky. On the island, Black Snake's eyes gleamed with a soul-stirring murderous intent. He firmly believed that King Yama would lead his men to save him because he was his most loyal subordinate. "Follow me. King Yama will arrive with his men soon." Black Snake shouted and a pitch-black scythe instantly appeared in his hand. Along with the slash of the scythe, dozens of black-robed youths in the vanguard of the martial army unleashed their magic longswords in unison. Puff! Like a kitchen knife chopping tofu, Black Snake's scythe was instantly cut into more than a dozen pieces. The violent sword shadows didn't stop and slashed Black Snake's body in an instant. Despite Black Snake's formidable strength that was comparable to a nascent soul stage cultivator, he was still sent flying upside down with more than a dozen bloody wounds left on his body. "God damn it!" Black Snake roared and turned around to flee. These 10-year-old children were not strong individually, but they were proficient in joint attacks. Although most of them were in the golden core stage, their joint attacks allowed their attacks to increase by more than 10 times. Even when compared to original infant stage cultivators, they were still a level higher. Tang Jin came from a distance and instantly appeared in the battle formation. A disdainful look appeared on his handsome face as he shouted, "You've already appeared in our formation. Even if you're 10 times stronger, you can't escape from our formation. Obediently surrender, or you'll die." Bam, 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 Black Snake tried to break through the encirclement from several directions, only to be smashed back by the Legion's soldiers. What made him furious was that more than half of his hundreds of men were killed in just a few minutes, while the rest gave up resisting and directly chose to surrender. "You're going too far." The Black Serpent took out a black flag from his bosom. As the chilly wind blew, the Black Serpent began to recite a strange incantation. Then, a steady stream of dead spirits drilled out of the ground. There were more than 10,000 of them, but the individual strength of each of them was very weak. At most, they were comparable to cultivators at the foundation establishment stage. "You're nothing but a worthless dog." A sneer appeared on Tang Jin's face. He shifted his gaze to Tang Along and heard the latter's voice. "Spare his life and capture him with the immortal binding shackle." Tang Jin's expression shifted and he immediately waved his arm to signal the Legion's members to kill the undead. He then took out a black rope from his sleeve and chanted an incantation, causing the black rope to instantly shoot toward Black Snake. "What the hell is this?" Black Snake's heart had already fallen into an ice cave because he could clearly feel that the black-robed young man in front of him was clearly an officer. His aura was immense, and he was actually a cultivator who was no weaker than him. However, he was still hoping that Yama would come to save him, so he gritted his teeth and summoned a black dragon made of black mist that bared its fangs and brandished its claws at the rope. "Break!" Tang Jin shouted coldly. Instantly, the black dragon in his hand was shattered by an immortal sword that shot out a beam of light. As for the black rope, it quickly circled around Black Snake and finally bound his body. "You want to capture me? Dream on." The netherworld force inside Black Snake's body surged crazily. While he was struggling desperately, the black rope became tighter and tighter, causing his struggle to become smaller and smaller. Immediately after, he saw a shadow appear in front of him. His forehead suffered a heavy blow and he eventually passed out. Tang Jin sneered. Although the dragon-binding rope wasn't an immortal artifact, it was a top-grade magic weapon personally refined by Lady Ji Qimei. Unless one had the strength of an immortal, it was impossible to break free once bound. A few minutes later, the 50,000 soldiers of the martial army landed on the island. After they temporarily set up camp, Tang Jin, Tang Mu, Tang Shui, Tang Hua, and Tang Tu quickly came to Tang Along. Tang Jin casually threw Black Snake in front of Tang Along and saluted. "How should we deal with him, Commander?" Tang Along faintly smiled and instantly pierced He Shi's Rinzhong acupoint with a silver needle. Just 10 seconds later, He Shi slowly woke up. His expression greatly changed when he saw the people around him. He seemed to recall something as he abruptly looked up at the sky and shouted, "Lord Yama, why didn't you save us?" On Yama Island. Yama stood in front of the virtual light screen with a complicated expression on his monstrous face. He had a total of 18 trusted subordinates, all of whom he trusted the most. Although Black Snake wasn't one of them, he was well aware of his loyalty to him. He wanted to save them. However, he didn't dare to leave Yama Island rashly because he didn't know if there were any Great Tang Empire's legion lurking outside the island. If there was a large group of powerful experts, he could not guarantee that he could escape unscathed. Therefore, he could only give up. He didn't want to use his own safety and the lives of his trusted subordinates to save a subordinate who obviously had no chance to escape. Chapter 1248. King Yama. Black Fox had always had a good relationship with Black Serpent. Seeing what happened to Black Serpent, she suddenly felt a sense of sympathy. She even imagined that King Yama would save her if she was the one guarding the #1 hidden island today. It wasn't just her, but the other 17 people were also thinking about it. However, the result made them feel a chill down their spines. King Yama's eyes swept over the faces of Black Fox's 18 people and slowly said, "You are my 18 most loyal people. In the past, all of you followed me on expeditions to the south and fought your way out of the 9 nether yellow springs. But Black Snake is different. Although he chose to follow me, he followed me later, so he can't be compared to you. If it were any of you today, I would have done everything I could to save you." In an instant, the 18 of them felt ashamed of their earlier thoughts. Their trust in King Yama was built up through countless battles and countless years of accompanying him. They were even willing to die for him, and they also believed that he would do everything he could to save them if the time came. "King Yama, I'm so aggrieved." Black Fox clenched her fists and her eyes flashed with hatred. She said in a deep voice, "Are we really going to stay on Yama Island like this? Are we just going to let the great Tang Empire shit on our heads?" King Yama frowned and asked, "What do you think we should do if we don't hide here?" A cold light flashed in Black Fox's eyes. She said in a deep voice, "Open the door to the 9 nether underworld and attract those evil ghosts. In any case, the evil ghosts in the 9 nether yellow springs will never be able to reincarnate, and they will never be able to enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. Instead of letting them live in the darkness of the 9 nether yellow springs, we might as well let them be our blades, the blades that can turn the tables and kill us." King Yama was silent for a moment and shook his head. "Have you ever thought about what kind of situation we'll face once we release all the evil ghosts in the 9 nether underworld? Do you think those ghost officials in the underworld will let us disturb the order of the world with the 9 paths of reincarnation in control?" Black Fox said, "A war can only confuse the underworld at most and make them unable to understand what happened in the world. Even if the ghost officials of the underworld come to investigate, the war will be over by then. We can hide immediately regardless of whether we win or lose. Hell won't be able to track us down, and we'll be able to start all over again in due time." Hades looked at the others and asked, "What do you guys think?" "Agreed. Fuck. No problem." The other 17 people nodded heavily. The murderous aura emanating from their bodies became even more intense. After weighing the pros and cons inwardly, Yama finally approved Black Fox's suggestion and slowly said, "Since all of you agree, then let's play it big. Even if we don't emerge victorious in the final battle, the great Tang Empire will still suffer great losses. Most importantly, I hated those fellows in the underworld. If I could give them some trouble, it would be a good thing to do. Black Fox, you are in charge of gathering all the members of the organization. Activate the 9th hidden island and have them gather there. In addition, I need 3 days to arrange the formation. Once the Yellow Springs portal opens, a steady stream of malicious ghosts will appear on the 9th hidden island from the 9 nether springs." "All right." Everyone nodded, their eyes bursting with excitement. They were a group of lawless and ruthless characters who practiced the ghost Tao through their physical bodies. After thousands of years of cultivation, they had long been accustomed to seeing life and death and had long been indifferent to life and death. As long as it wasn't their own people, they wouldn't care even if 1 billion or 10 billion people died. Even, their cultivation needed the assistance of souls. If they could devour a lot of souls, their strength might advance by leaps and bounds and reach a higher level. On the first hidden island, Tang Along looked at Black Snake, who was slowly waking up and smilingly said, "You thought that Yama came back to save you, yet he directly gave you up. Is it fun? Are you very disappointed in your heart right now? Are you very angry?" Black Snake raised his head and said, "I'm very disappointed and angry. But my hatred for you is stronger than his. I know you have questions for me, but I'm telling you, don't even think about getting any information from me." Tang Along chuckled and said, "I know you're not a human being, are you? If I'm not mistaken, you're not a human, are you?" asked Tang Along with a smile. Black Snake snorted coldly, "I'm a general of the Ghost Clan, a subordinate of the King of Hell." "Damn it, why should I tell you?" Tang Along shook his head and smilingly said, "I didn't expect the ghost race to appear in the human world. More importantly, they even established an organization. Interesting, really interesting. How about we make a deal? Black Snake snorted, what deal? Tell me what I want to know and I'll fulfill your 3 wishes, said Tang Along. Of course, there's one wish that I've already thought of for you, and that is to kill the person you're loyal to, that so-called King Yen Luo. As for the other 2, you can bring them up yourself. Black Snake narrowed his eyes. He had always liked to use schemes and intrigues, so after hearing Tang Along's words, his mind quickly raced, thinking about how to get away and how to get some benefits. Indeed. He hated Hades very much, because through the previous battle, he knew that he had been abandoned by Hades. She thought about how she had been so loyal to him and treated him as the most important person in her life. However, she didn't expect that she wasn't even a chess piece in his eyes. What do you want to know? Asked Black Snake without batting an eyelid. Where's King Yenluo's lair? Asked Tang Along with a smile. That's the Dark Wind Organization's lair. Black Snake was silent for a few minutes. Then, he suddenly raised his head and shouted, King Yenluo, don't blame me for being unjust since you're so heartless. You're the one who abandoned me and my brothers first. After roaring, he immediately looked down at Tang Along and said in a deep voice, the Dark Wind Organization's lair is in Yama Island, only 200 nautical miles away from here. It's a place that can't be found on the satellite map. The entire Yama Island is covered by an array, so outsiders can't find it at all. Who is King Yenluo? Asked Tang Along immediately. How many experts are there in the Dark Wind Organization? King Yenluo is not a person of this world. Not only him, but me and my 18 subordinates don't belong here, said Black Snake. We come from the 9 Nether Underworld, a place where evil spirits can never enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. King Yenluo has a very distinguished status in the 9 Nether Underworld as one of the 3 commanders of that world. It's because we accidentally found a spatial crack that we built a secret passage there. It's just that it's easy to come out, but it's very difficult to go back in. Of course, it's not like there's no way out, but we'll have to pay a hefty price. Besides, this world is the one we like, so we don't want to go back unless it's a last resort. As for how many experts the Dark Wind Organization has, aside from the unfathomable King Yenluo, there are also his 18 trusted subordinates and hundreds of ghost cultivators trained by King Yenluo. Tang Along squinted his eyes with countless thoughts churning in his mind. He felt that he must tell his master, Tan Xiu, about this matter since it involved another world. Immediately after, he took out his communicator and dialed Tan Xiu's number. Ah Lang, it's me. Shortly after, Tan Xiu's deep voice came from the phone. There's an unexpected situation, Master, said Tang Along respectfully. The leader of the Dark Wind Organization, the one called King Yenluo, is not a human from Earth, but from the 9 Nether Underworld. We captured one of King Yenluo's subordinates and got the information from him. Send me your current coordinates and don't act rashly for the time being, said Tan Xiu. I'll catch up with you immediately. Understood. Tang Along replied. After sending the coordinates, he looked at Black Snake again and asked, is that guy who calls himself King Yenluo really that strong? He can become one of the 3 commanders of the 9 Nether Underworld, so his cultivation level is naturally unfathomable. Black Snake nodded and said, he's best at arrays and has a very high attainment in this aspect. He was the one who personally set up the formation around the first hidden island. Although I don't know how you managed to break this feng shui formation, I think you should have figured out his means. Tang Along nodded and said, you've told me everything I want to know, so tell me your remaining 2 conditions. Black Snake gave it a thought and said, spare my life and take me to see the scene of King Yenluo's death. I only have these requirements. Tang Along couldn't help laughing and said, it seems you really hate that King Yenluo. It's no wonder, though. After all, you're loyal and devoted to him, yet he treated you like trash and abandoned you. Anyone in your shoes would feel very pained and have a deep hatred for him. You're actually a pitiful man. Pitiful man? Black Snake closed his eyes in pain, but the murderous aura emanating from his body became more intense. Tang Along no longer paid attention to Black Snake and turned to look at Tang Jin's group of 5 in front of him, shouting in a deep voice, "Convey my order." He ordered the scouts to immediately head out in all directions 200 kilometers away to look for places that were out of place. Do remember to return and report at once you find something suspicious. Understood. Tang Jin's group of 5 nodded and quickly arranged it. Half a day later, hundreds of scouts returned one after another, and Tang Along also figured out the specific location of the Yama Island. However, just as Black Snake said, there was an array shrouding the island. If it weren't for the scouts being very strong and having good escape skills, they would have been killed there. Whoosh! 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 A figure flickered from a distance and Tan Xiu appeared on the first hidden island. Standing in front of Tang Along, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, "Tell me the specific situation." "Understood," replied Tang Along respectfully. The return from the immortal world would officially end at the end of this month. Chapter 1249. Tang Along told Tan Xiu the result of his inquiry and finally said, "Master, this is related to another world, so I think it's necessary to tell you about it." "You did a good job." Tan Xiu nodded. "Besides, I have a hunch that the King of Hell we're going to face next won't be easy." Tang Along's expression shifted and said, "Master, according to Black Snake's confession, King Yama only has hundreds of experts trained by him left in addition to his 18 trusted subordinates. Our martial legion has a total of 50,000 people. Coupled with the experts you brought here, it shouldn't be that difficult to exterminate them all, right?" Tan Xiu didn't answer Tang Along's question and said, "Shui should have followed you here. Tell her to come out and see me." Tang Along stared blankly and immediately asked with a confused expression, "But I haven't seen Madame Shuiyu, Master." Tan Xiu raised his brows and instantly released his spiritual sense. In a flash, he found Shuiyu's figure on the beach nearby. However, she was wearing a black battle robe and didn't expose herself in the legion's ranks. Tan Xiu forced a smile and shook his head. He instantly appeared in front of Shuiyu and helplessly said, "Was it fun?" Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Shuiyu's mouth immediately curved into an arc and smilingly said, "It's indeed very interesting. I only knew that the Legion's combat power is good, but it's really shocking to see tens of thousands of soldiers in action at the same time. Anyway, how did you know that I secretly followed you?" "You followed the Martial Legion, Kang Xia followed the Dragon Legion, Ouyang Lulu followed the Tiger Legion, and even Mu Wenying secretly followed the Phoenix Legion." Tan Xiu smilingly said. "Of course, apart from you, there are also some experts from the Great Tang Empire who secretly followed you around under my arrangement." "How come I didn't see them?" Shuiyu was surprised. "They're from the Slaughter Division," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Shuiyu instantly understood and forced a wry smile. The members of the Slaughter Division trained by Tangan are indeed very mysterious, so it's not easy to find them. In addition, Yen Er has personally trained those homicidal maniacs in the Kill Division for a long time. Their current strength, I'm afraid that even the weakest among them has reached the soul formation stage, right?" Tan Xiu smiled and said, "They have indeed reached the soul formation stage, but compared to you, a body integration stage expert, there is still a gap. I didn't expect your cultivation speed to be so fast. In such a short time, you actually improved so much. Maybe it won't be long before you can break through to the Desheng stage. It's normal to cultivate faster after obtaining the inheritance of that immortal," said Shuiyu with a smile. "By the way, you shouldn't be here. Why are you here now?" Tan Xiu's expression turned serious and said, "There's a special situation. The Darkwind's leader is actually from another world. Therefore, I had to personally come over to oversee things. Let's go. Let's go somewhere and meet this King of Hell." "You actually dare to call him King of Hell?" Shuiyu shook her head and sighed with a smile. "Don't take it lightly," said Tan Xiu. "He must be very strong since he can come here from another world. At the very least, he's at the Desheng stage." While they were talking, Tan Xiu grabbed Shui Yu's waist and instantly flew toward Yama Island. A few minutes later, they appeared on the periphery of the island. Looking at the scene shrouded in black mist ahead, Tan Xiu shook his head and sighed. This place is indeed very hidden. Only those who come here will be able to find the abnormality here. Otherwise, even the satellites can't monitor the abnormality here, let alone find out that there's an island here. An array? Asked Shui Yu with a frown. It's indeed an array, and it's not an ordinary one either. Tan Xiu nodded. With that said, Tan Xiu instantly released his spiritual sense and quickly comprehended the array in front of him. In just 10 minutes, he had thoroughly comprehended the 13 arrays on the periphery. However, he encountered some difficulty when he was comprehending the 14th formation. But in just a few minutes, he was able to comprehend the formation thoroughly. Break. Tan Xiu instantly unleashed the divine sword and shot it toward Azura Island like a rainbow. In just a moment, the 14 arrays on the periphery were easily broken by Tan Xiu. Inside Yama Island, King Yama stood in front of the virtual light screen and stared dumbfoundedly at Tan Xiu's sword attack. His heartbeat accelerated as he watched the arrays being broken one by one. How is this possible? King Yama was sure that the young man had only been outside for a short time, yet he was able to comprehend the arrays he had arranged and easily find the array core in such a short time. This was simply inconceivable. He, who also looked shocked and hurriedly said, "How did he do it, King Yama?" There are 14 arrays, and each of them is very powerful. How did he break them with a single sword attack? King Yama took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I originally had 2 trump cards. The first is my own strength, and the second is the 18 arrays I've arranged. I didn't expect that there would be someone in the Great Tang Empire who is proficient in arrays, and his attainments are probably above mine. How is this possible?" He, who was shocked. Your attainments in arrays are far superior to those in the netherworld, let alone those in the 9 nether underworld. I'm afraid that even those powerhouses in the netherworld can't compare to you. He's just a young man with a high cultivation, but how can his attainments in arrays be higher than yours? King Yama's expression turned ugly. He shook his head and said, "There are all sorts of strange things in the boundless universe. This guy is definitely a freak among freaks. If he can break the remaining 4 arrays, I'm afraid we'll have to shelve our previous opportunity. If he can break the arrays, he can also arrange more arrays. If the array he arranged is even more powerful, it'll be a devastating blow to us." He, whose pupils shrunk and he stared at the virtual light screen nervously. He secretly prayed that the remaining 4 arrays could stump the young man and keep him outside. On the periphery of Yama Island, Tan Xiu hovered in the air. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the remaining 4 arrays and see everyone inside. A billowing voice also came out of Tan Xiu's mouth. "You're the leader of the Dark Wind, King Yama. You're able to set up an intelligence network all over the world, and you're also from another world. I can assure you that I won't kill you when you come out." King Yama hesitated for a moment before his figure flashed and disappeared from the pagoda. When he reappeared in the next moment, he was already on the coastline of Yama Island. While looking at Tan Xiu outside the array, King Yama indifferently said, "If I'm not mistaken, you're the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire, Tan Xiu. Am I right?" "You have good eyesight, sir." Tan Xiu chuckled. "We've always minded our own business, Tan Xiu," said King Yama lightly. "My Dark Wind has never done anything against you, has it? Why do you want to make things difficult for me? Why did you lead your Great Tang Empire's army to kill me?" "You've disrupted the order and destroyed the balance of humanity," said Tan Xiu calmly. "You've been making money by selling other people's private information, which has seriously threatened us. Let's have a talk. If you want me to stop, take your men and leave this place to return to your world. Else what?" King Yama sneered. "You want to kill me?" Tan Xiu nodded and said, "It's easy for me to kill you given my strength. The reason why I haven't destroyed the remaining 4 formations and why I haven't attacked you yet is because I want to give you and my subordinates a chance. You want to use the dark wind to train your troops? King Yama sneered. You're really wise, sir. Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. I can't hide this little trick of mine from you. What do you think of the condition I just offered? I don't think much of it. King Yama sneered. I won't leave unless you can break the array I've arranged in a short time. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I can break it easily, but I don't think it's the time yet. You can break the 14 arrays I've arranged outside, which shows that your attainments in arrays are indeed good, said King Yama disdainfully. However, the remaining 4 formations are the most powerful ones that I can set up. It won't be easy even for you to break them. Are you sure? While talking with King Yama, Tan Xiu's spiritual sense was still integrated into the 15th array and thoroughly comprehended it. He was just deliberately stalling for time by talking to King Yama. Of course I'm sure, said King Yama proudly. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and unleashed the divine sword again, fiercely bombarding the 15th array's array core. As the array core was destroyed, the array's foundation was also damaged. Finally, the 15th array vanished, having been directly broken by Tang Xiu. Disbelief was cast on King Yama's devilish face. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu didn't lie to him and could easily break the remaining arrays. Now, do you believe me? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile as he put away the divine sword. King Yama took a deep breath and shook his head. Again. Let me see it again. Tan Xiu leisurely took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a few deep puffs. Then, he said, since you want to see the power of my arrays, then I'll show you again. Lightning sword, break it for me. The divine sword accurately destroyed the eye of the 16th array formation, and easily destroyed this array formation. Do you still want to see it again? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. At this moment, King Yama's expression was incomparably shocked. He never dreamed that Tang Xiu could really break the remaining arrays so easily. Who the hell are you? King Yama was afraid of many people in his life, but the one he dreaded the most was undoubtedly this mysterious and unfathomable young man in front of him. I'm the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire, Tan Xiu, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Not only am I the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, the descendant of the Tang family in the former imperial capital, and the young divine doctor of Chinese medicine in China. I'm Tang Xiu, and my real identity is a cultivator. Chapter 1250. The winner is king, and the loser is nothing but a bandit. King Yama held this sentence in high esteem and even regarded it as his motto for the rest of his life. In the face of Tan Xiu's soaring arrogance, his killing intent skyrocketed even though he was a bit afraid. How many gambles could there be in life? He decided to take a gamble. Instead of fleeing back to the 9 nether underworld, he might as well fight to his heart's content. Even if all his subordinates were to die in the end, he was confident that he could keep his life. He took out a pair of pitch-black boxing gloves and put them on his hands. A soft sword was then drawn from his waist. As the sword flashed, it eventually became as hard as iron, straight and sharp. Tan Xiu. King Yama took a deep breath. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Let's meet on the 9th hidden island 3 days later. I really want to see how strong the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire is. There's no time like the present." Tan Xiu chuckled and said, "Since you want to see my strength, why wait for 3 days? Why don't I break the remaining 2 formations, and then we can have some fun on the sea?" "It's not convenient today," said King Yama coldly. "I need to adjust my strength to its peak state. If you choose to attack my Yama Island, I can only retreat with all my subordinates and fight my way back to this world in the future. This world, or rather, China, you can protect it now, but what about thousands of years later? Do you still have the ability to protect it? Thousands of years later?" Tan Xiu was shocked inwardly. He understood that King Yama's words made sense. He would leave Earth in 2 years and go to the immortal world to fight. How could there be thousands of years later? If he really retreated, it would undoubtedly be like nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity, leaving a malignant tumor for humanity on Earth. He weighed the pros and cons inwardly. In the end, Tan Xiu nodded slowly and said, "Since you chose to meet me on the 9th hidden island 3 days later, then I'll promise you. But if I don't see you on the 9th hidden island 3 days later, don't blame me for using all my strength to kill you even if I have to chase you to the 9 nether underworld." A look of disdain flashed across Hades' eyes. How could it be so easy to enter the 9 nether yellow springs? If it was a ghost cultivator, it would be fine. However, if it was a cultivator who cultivated other types of powers, once they entered the 9 nether springs, they would lose the supply of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. At that time, the amount of power they consumed would decrease a little. After entering the 9 nether yellow springs, even an immortal would not be able to kill him in an instant. As long as he was given a chance to escape, he would have a chance to turn the tables. It's a pity that there is no death chi of the underworld on earth. Otherwise, I would be able to restore my strength to its peak. At that time, I would even be able to kill experts at the crossing calamity stage. King Yama felt some regret in his heart. Looking at Tan Xiu's departing figure, a helpless and bitter smile appeared on his bewitching face. Blue sky, white clouds, thousands of miles of clear sky. As Tan Xiu and Shuiyu walked side by side, a thoughtful look appeared on his handsome face. Anyone with a bit of brains would be able to realize that the King of Hell might have some unexpected means up his sleeves. However, Tan Xiu really had no way of guessing what that method was. "Have you really made up your mind?" Shuiyu's eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor as they kept lingering on Tan Xiu's face. Her voice was very pleasant to listen to, but there was also a bit of doubt in it. King Yama is right. If he immediately returns to the 9 nether yellow springs with his subordinates and destroys the road leading to the 9 nether yellow springs in this world, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to get rid of him again, said Tan Xiu. If he comes out of the 9 nether yellow springs again after we leave, I'm afraid he'll retaliate crazily. Therefore, anyone who has any connection with me will likely become the target of his revenge. I can even guess that this kind of revenge will be more terrifying than the 9 clan extermination. But he chose the time and the place, said Shuiyu. What if he sets up a trap on the 9th hidden island in advance? Do we have to jump into it? Well, the only thing we can do now is to deal with each move as it comes. Tan Xiu forced a smile. Don't worry, I'll send Yen, to take charge when the time comes. Even if King Yama has any conspiracy, he won't harm a golden immortal. I think it's a good idea, said Shuiyu suddenly. But Gu Yen, is bound by the heavenly Tao rules of this world. Once she uses her power exceeding that of an immortal, she'll be discovered by the heavenly Tao of this world. If by any chance. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and suddenly said, then let Ji Qimei come here. I have a plan to let her return to the immortal world first. A year in our world is only 100 years in the immortal world. Ji Qimei will go there 2 years in advance, so she'll only wait for 200 years in the immortal world at most. Letting her go back ahead of time is also a vanguard for us. Will Ji Qimei agree? Asked Shuiyu with a frown. She will, answered Tan Xiu. 3 days later. Tan Xiu personally commanded the 4 major legions to occupy the southern part of the 9th hidden island, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Dark Wind. Tan Xiu was well aware that today's battle would be his last on Earth. After this battle, he would be able to spend 2 years in peace and stability, and then head to the immortal world when everything was ready. Ji Qimei had arrived 3 days ago after receiving Tan Xiu's order. When Tan Xiu told her about his plan, she agreed without hesitation. In fact, she was well aware of the current situation in the immortal world. If the Great Tang Empire's hundreds of thousands of troops were to encounter a mortal enemy as soon as they arrived in the immortal world in the future, they would be in big trouble. They're here, Master. Tang Along stepped on a frisbee and quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes and asked, how many people are coming? According to our observation, the vanguard should be about 5,000 people, said Tang Along. According to the intel, these 5,000 people should be the Darkwind's experts from all over the world who were summoned by King Yama. There are also about 2,000 people behind them. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. If my guess is correct, this should be all the forces of the Dark Wind. Have you found King Yama yet? We haven't found him yet according to Black Snake's portrait. Tang Along shook his head. However, given his strength, it'll be difficult for us to find him if he wants to change his appearance and restrain his aura. That's right, Old Blind is here. She said she has something to tell you. Tan Xiu's expression shifted and he immediately ordered, bring her here. Old Blind had been staying on Nine Dragons Island and only occasionally went to the pocket world to cultivate in seclusion. She almost didn't care about anything else. Now that she suddenly came here, it meant that she must have something important to tell him. After a while, Old Blind came to Tan Xiu and said, there's something wrong with this battle, Your Majesty. I peeped into the heavenly secrets and saw rivers of blood and corpses everywhere. Also, I saw the monstrous ghosts here, just like hell. It's just that I can't see the outcome of this battle because of your existence, so I can only rely on what I can see to speculate that the next battle will be very bad. Tan Xiu frowned and turned to look to the north. With his eyesight, he could already see the Darkwind's vanguard getting closer and closer. However, Ji Qimei had already come here. With her being a powerhouse comparable to an immortal, even if King Yama's power was monstrous, he wouldn't be able to stir up any waves, right? Old Blind, I've already received your warning. I won't take this battle lightly. Don't worry. Tan Xiu was silent for a while before he nodded with a solemn expression. How about I deal with the 5,000 vanguard soldiers? Old Blind nodded. I've been cultivating in seclusion all these years and have broken through to the Celestial Master stage. I'm only a step away from the Divine Master stage. I want to see what level my strength has reached now. Tan Xiu thought for a while and nodded. Since you're willing to take action, then let's exercise our muscles and bones. You'll have the chance to fight when we get to the immortal world. Old Blind let out a faint smile and her figure instantly flew to the north of the 9th hidden island. In nearly the blink of an eye, she had already appeared in front of the 5,000 Darkwind experts. She chanted an incantation that was filled with the vicissitudes of life and experience, and a transparent blade beam instantly swept toward the 5,000 people. Puff, 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 with just one strike, only a dozen of the Darkwind's 5,000 vanguard soldiers soared into the sky from the crowd and escaped the violent strike. Even though the rest tried their best to evade, they were still slashed at the waist and directly obliterated. She's so strong. Everyone present was amazed by the slash. Such power and violence were simply overwhelming. Despite being very strong, Shuiyu still didn't dare to say that she could achieve such a feat, goddammit. King Yama, who was shrouded in a black robe, soared into the sky from the rear. He waved the staff in his hand and roared angrily, I didn't expect you to turn out to be a bunch of despicable villains, Tan Xiu. We haven't even arrived at the 9th hidden island yet your men have already killed my men. You're simply shameless. Tan Xiu soared into the sky and sneered. Your men have arrived, which means the war has already begun. In such a situation, it's either you die or I die. Don't tell me you want to have a cup of tea and chat with me after you arrived. King Yama glared at Tan Xiu and cast an incantation. Black smoke immediately rose around the 9th hidden island. In just a few breaths, the entire island was shrouded in black mist. If that's the case, then let's kill them all. Your great Tang Empire may have a large army of cultivators, but I'm not a pushover either. Kill them all. Let's see how many ghouls you can kill and how heavy your losses will be. King Yama roared angrily and waved the staff in his hand even faster. Tan Xiu's expression changed. He could keenly sense that the surrounding temperature had dropped by more than 10 degrees in just a short moment, and he could even smell the scent of ghouls. Chapter 1251. Wah! This portal really can lead to a new world. This place. Damned God. The air here is so wonderful, and this world is so beautiful. What am I seeing? Every single life, every single human body with flesh and blood. Ha ha ha. Is this the ranch of us vengeful spirits? Is this food really prepared for us? Human realm. This is actually the human realm. We've finally rushed out of that damned 9 nether springs. Brothers, kill. Occupy this world and destroy the damned humans. As long as we can draw the death energy of the 9 nether springs to this world, this will be our paradise. A few hundred years. A few thousand years. We've finally come out of the 9 nether springs. I want to kill. I really, really want to kill. Comrades, let's hunt for blood. There are countless lives here waiting for us to devour. I like this place, and I like killing. I want to build my own ghost realm here. Kill them. Plumes of black smoke continuously rose from the ground. Following that, as the black smoke condensed, it eventually formed into ferocious-looking malicious spirits. At first, there weren't many vengeful spirits. But as time passed, tens of thousands of vengeful spirits rushed out of the 9 nether springs in just a few minutes. Tanshio finally knew what King Yama was up to, but he didn't expect that King Yama would dare to release vengeful spirits from the 9 nether springs to the human realm. Observe. Ponder. After a few minutes of silence, Tanshio finally determined the strength of those vengeful spirits that rushed into the human realm. A ruthless look flashed across his face as he stood in the air and quickly made a dozen hand gestures. Immediately, the soldiers of the 4 major armies on the flying discs began to move. Today, the soldiers of the Great Tang Empire will kill and exterminate these vengeful spirits. Tan Xiao took out his divine sword, and a lightning-fast sword light instantly swept towards the vengeful spirits nearby. The 1,000-meter-long sword light instantly destroyed hundreds of vengeful spirits. Only a few powerful vengeful spirits escaped the range of the sword light with serious injuries. Kill. 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 War Dragon Army, War Tiger Army, War Phoenix Army, War Martial Army. Under the command of Tan Xiao, the 4 legions launched fierce attacks on the malicious ghosts that appeared one after another in a well-organized battle formation. Not only Tan Xiao, but Shuiyu, Old Blind, and Tang Guang, who was hiding in the dark with hundreds of members of the Kill Division, also began to slaughter the malicious ghosts. Thousands of meters away. A cold glint flashed in King Yama's eyes. With a wave of his arm, the experts of the Dark Wind organization immediately rushed toward the Great Tang Empire's legion. Because Yama had injected death energy into these people, those vengeful ghosts stopped attacking the Dark Wind people after discovering Yama. Tan Xiao was killing people and ghosts at the same time. However, his attention was completely focused on King Yenluo. As the King of Hell got closer and closer, he slaughtered hundreds of evil ghosts with a single strike and instantly appeared in front of the King of Hell. Didn't you want to see my strength? This 9th hidden island is too fragile for us. Come to the sea surface. We won't have any problem even if we split a hole in the sky. Tan Xiao stared at Yama and shouted in a deep voice. Yama narrowed his eyes and sensed the surging battle intent in Tan Xiao. Then, he said in a deep voice, Tan Xiao, since your Great Tang Empire doesn't want to give the Dark Wind a way out, then I'll drag you to hell with me. I'll kill you today. The black-gloved fist instantly turned into a huge fist shadow hundreds of meters long and fiercely bombarded the front of Tan Xiao. The netherworld artifact that had evolved from the flexible sword also turned into layers of sword shadows in an attempt to swallow Tan Xiao. Great Ascension Stage. Tan Xiao unleashed his full strength. The divine sword turned into a light dragon and instantly swallowed the huge fist shadow and the layers of sword shadows. At the same time, he directly used the Devour Divine ability. The spiral airflow around him quickly turned into a tornado and completely dissolved Yama's attack. Then, the attack instantly arrived in front of Yama. What the hell is this? Yama's expression changed greatly. Tan Xiao hadn't exerted his full strength before, so he couldn't judge Tan Xiao's strength. But at this moment, he sensed that Tan Xiao's strength was dozens of times stronger than his. He even judged that Tan Xiao's cultivation was at the Crossing Tribulation stage. The Crossing Tribulation stage was the closest cultivator to becoming an immortal. Once a cultivator at the crossing tribulation stage could withstand the attack of the immortal tribulation, they would be able to transform and become a true immortal. Run. Yama had two great foundations and his attainments in arrays. But facing Tan Xiu, he was ashamed of his inferiority. As for his strength, he could see the gap between him and Tan Xiu. The battle had just begun. But he already knew that he was going to lose. Want to run? Come back. A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. His Devour Divine ability was unleashed to the limit. Suddenly, thousands of ghosts around him were pulled over and slaughtered by Tan Xiu using the Devour Divine ability. The ghost power scattered in all directions was also devoured by Tan Xiu. Yama wanted to escape, but the huge suction force and the tornado forced him to keep retreating. In the end, he was getting closer and closer to Tan Xiu. Impossible. You can't be that powerful. Damn it, those three old things on earth, they were forced by me to swear a heavy oath that they would never interfere in the affairs of the world again. How did you do it? How did you become so powerful? Yama roared in anger, his voice full of disbelief. It wasn't his fault. Through his investigation of Tan Xiu, he knew that more than 5 years ago, Tan Xiu was just an ignorant child in Xingqing No. 1 high school. Even if, more than 5 years had passed, and even if Tan Xiu encountered a great opportunity, it was impossible for him to break through to the tribulation passing stage in such a short time. This was against common sense. This didn't conform to the rules of the heavenly Tao. Tan Xiu sneered and said, "How can a frog at the bottom of a well understand my existence?" After that, he frantically extracted the chaotic force from the planets in the internal universe and exerted the Devour Divine ability even more violently. Yama's heart was beating wildly and a sense of despair burst forth from the bottom of his heart. As a ruthless look flashed in his eyes, he suddenly stabbed his chest with his right hand. As blood spurted out from his heart, thick death chi erupted from his body. In the blink of an eye, his body had already changed. Spikes appeared on his shoulders, a sharp horn appeared on his forehead, his nose slightly enlarged and his mouth slightly curled up. Dense scales drilled out of his body, making him look like a monster. His aura also skyrocketed dozens of times in an instant, almost comparable to that of a tribulation passing stage powerhouse. However, he did not risk his life to fight with Tan Xiu. Instead, he broke free from the suction force emitted from Tan Xiu's body and shot into the distance in an extremely embarrassing manner. Obviously, he was running for his life. Go back. An old figure appeared out of thin air and instantly blocked Yama's way. A swift and fierce kick directly landed on his face. As Yama's body flew backward, a divine sword pierced through his heart from the back. How is this possible? Yama's eyes revealed a look of disbelief, as if he had seen the most incredible thing in the world. Almost using the last of his strength, he roared, "Are you an immortal? Damn the rules of the heavenly way, how can an immortal appear in this world? This is impossible." Tan Xiu instantly appeared behind Yama, with an evil smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. He laughed and said, "You think it's impossible because you're sitting in a hole and looking at the sky. You have too little knowledge. There is more than one immortal on this earth." After that, his fist landed on King Yama's head, killing him instantly. Suddenly, rolling thunder rumbled and dark clouds surged from all directions in the sky. Lightning flashed in the thick dark clouds and illuminated the whole world. Ji Qimei's old face revealed a bit of reluctance. She knelt on one knee in the void and placed her right fist on her left chest. Then, she said in a deep voice, "As the great Tang Empire's vanguard, this subordinate will first go to the immortal world to investigate the situation. Your Majesty, we'll meet again in the immortal world 100 years later." A complicated expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face as he slowly said, "This trip will be fraught with dangers, so safety is the most important. Take care, Ji Qimei." "Take care, Your Majesty." Ji Qimei nodded heavily. Then, an immortal sword appeared in her hand out of thin air. She waved her arm and a sword beam instantly cut through the sky. It tore a crack in the sky and then quickly plunged into the crack. It was very dangerous. Tan Xiu's heart was as clear as a mirror. He knew very well that Ji Qimei would not appear in the receiving immortal pond when she returned to the immortal world. Instead, she would randomly appear anywhere in the immortal world. She might even appear in some dangerous places in the immortal world. After a while, the crack in the sky disappeared. Then, an invisible energy swept over Tan Xiu and everyone on the battlefield below. Finally, a bolt of lightning struck down. The target was neither Tan Xiu nor the soldiers of the Great Tang Empire, but the tens of thousands of vengeful ghosts that came out from the 9 nether underworld. It was as though the end of the world had arrived. Tens of thousands of vengeful ghosts wailed and turned into black smoke before finally dissipating between heaven and earth. At this moment, Ji Qimei's roar resounded. Immediately afterward, a red light suddenly erupted from the direction of Yama Island and the entire island disappeared under a terrifying aura. He knew that it was Ji Qimei who destroyed Yama Island before she left. She also destroyed the array on Yama Island. It was precisely because of this that the portal to the human world and the 9 nether underworld was also destroyed. He slightly bowed his head. Tan Xiu looked down and immediately shouted, "Soldiers of the Great Tang Empire, heed my order. Annihilate all the members of the Dark Wind. Kill." The soldiers of the 4 major legions once again slaughtered the few remaining members of the Dark Wind. Due to the huge disparity in strength, all the members of the Dark Wind were slaughtered in just 10 minutes, including Yama's 18 trusted subordinates. Return in triumph. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. He glanced at the 9th hidden island, which had been mostly destroyed, and then shouted in a deep voice. Chapter 1252. Time flew by and years passed by in a flash. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed in a hurry. The Great Tang Empire, which had once set off a wave of terror on Earth, had destroyed the top 3 organizations in the world, destroyed House Dolan, and annihilated the Darkwind organization, had completely disappeared from everyone's world. However, no one dared to ignore this force, especially those people and forces with very high positions. They all chose to lie dormant in secret, quietly waiting for the next eruption of the Great Tang Empire. The countdown began in 4 days. On the tarmac of the Shanghai airport, Li Laozhan leaned against a black Mercedes-Benz SUV and looked at Tan Xiu, who was coming down from the ladder with a smile on his face. It had been more than 3 years since he last saw Tan Xiu. During these 3 years, he often missed the days when he was with Tan Xiu. Their ages were different. But they were friends despite the great difference in age. Li Laozhan looked at Tan Xiu, who was getting closer and closer. He opened his arms and greeted him with a smile, "I'm glad you can come back, big brother. But why didn't you shout at the top of your lungs when you walked out of the cabin door?" Tan Xiu patted Li Laozhan's back. After letting go of his hand, he said with a smile, "What did I shout for? Don't tell me you want to shout Hu Han-san, am back. Ha ha ha. Old brother Fatty, your tonnage is even higher than before." Li Laozhan blushed with shame and rolled his eyes at Tan Xiu. He snappily scolded with a smile, "You're really touching my sore spot, brat. However, I was really overjoyed when I received your call yesterday. You heartless little brat, you finally remembered this old brother of yours. Tell me, you won't leave again after coming back this time, right?" Tan Xiu put away his smile and said, "I'll be back today and leave the day after tomorrow. This should be the last time we brothers see each other." "What do you mean?" The smile on Li Laozhan's face froze as he stared at Tan Xiu and asked. Tan Xiu didn't explain. Instead, he said, "Brother Li, how about you drive and I sit in the front passenger seat?" After pondering for a moment, Li Laozhan spoke to the driver not far away and immediately sat in the driver's seat. As Tan Xiu got in the car, Li Laozhan immediately started the car and drove out of the airport. He was only able to drive his car into the airport because of Tan Xiu's name. After the car drove out of the airport, Li Laozhan said with all seriousness, "Brother Tang, I know your character very well. You absolutely won't talk nonsense for no reason. Tell me, where are you going? Tan Xiu pointed his finger to the top and calmly said, I taught you a cultivation technique in the past, so you should have gained some cultivation experience in the past few years. People strive for higher places, and water flows to lower places. I'll be able to break the shackles of this world soon, so there's no point in staying. Before I leave, I need to see some of my former brothers. Li Laozhan was silent. He had indeed stepped into the ranks of cultivators and could be regarded as a cultivator. After all, he also had the strength of a foundation establishment stage cultivator after several years of cultivation. He knew that Tan Xiu was about to ascend to become an immortal. But when he thought about his own cultivation aptitude, he knew that it was impossible for him to cultivate to that level and ascend to become an immortal. It was impossible for him to go to the immortal world to see Tan Xiu. At this moment, perhaps, as Tan Xiu said, this would be the last time the two brothers would see each other in their lives. Evening. The two of them got drunk in the paradise manner. As Li Laozhan was carried away by his bodyguards to rest, Tan Xiu didn't deliberately force out the alcohol in his body. He took a comfortable bath and washed away the reluctance in his body. Then, he changed his clothes and drove back to the Blue Star Villa complex. At this moment, inside Tan Xiu's villa in the Blue Star Villa complex, a group of young people gathered together. Some of them didn't know each other, but some were very familiar with each other. But because of their relationship with Tan Xiu, their communication was very harmonious. Why hasn't eldest brother come back yet? The food sent by the everlasting feast hall will be cold soon. Long Zhenglin raised his hand to touch his bald head. His burly body stood at the door and his eyes kept sweeping outside. Yuan Chuling, who had put on weight recently, hugged a girl with a delicate face and a hot figure in his arms. He extinguished the cigarette in his hand and smilingly said, Long Zhenglin, eldest brother said he'll come back, so he'll definitely come back. I haven't seen him for so many years, and I've been thinking about him for so many years. But I don't care about such a short time. Long Zhenglin rolled his eyes and said with a strange smile, just think about eldest brother. Won't the belle in your arms be jealous? I'm not jealous. The hot girl raised her chin and smilingly said. A gentle and quiet girl beside him suddenly said, I think she'll be jealous. Some men care more about their brothers than they care about women. I'm quite jealous. Ha ha ha, everyone in the room suddenly burst into laughter. At this time, aside from Long Zhenglin, Yuan Zhengxian, and Yu Kai, there were also Hu Qingsong, Zhao Yang, Shui Chao, Long Zhengyu, Ji Mu, Bai Tao, Wang Su, Fei Shan, Qin Shaoyang, and some others in the living room. Aside from these big men, there were also 6 girls, female companions brought by some of them. They were also their girlfriends or wives. Suddenly, at the door, Long Zhenglin's eyes lit up. He dashed toward the door and shouted, Eldest brother, you're back. Just as Tan Xiu entered the courtyard, he saw Long Zhenglin dashing toward him. He smiled and opened his arms to give him a big hug. After letting go, he saw his former brothers rushing out of the villa's entrance. They were laughing and frolicking. A group of young men in their 20s stayed in the courtyard for a long time. When they returned to the villa's hall, Tan Xiu's eyes swept over the 6 girls. After hearing Long Zhengyu's introduction, he directly took out 6 jade pendants from his interspatial ring and handed them to the 6 girls, saying, Sisters-in-law, I've seen some of you, but I haven't seen some of you. But since you can come together with this brother of Tan Xiu, I sincerely wish you all the best. This is a greeting gift. I hope you like it. The 6 girls knew Tan Xiu's identity, so they didn't refuse and thanked him one after another after receiving it. The hot girl even praised, Eldest brother, Yuan Chuling has been talking about you all day long. Seeing is really better than hearing 100 times. I'm really happy that my old Yuan has a brother like you. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and then said with a serious expression, Sisters-in-law, I didn't expect that my brothers would bring you here. Since we've already met, how about I invite you to Paradise Manor to play? Someone will arrange it there. What do you mean? The hot girl stared blankly and subconsciously turned to look at Yuan Chuling. At this moment, the dozens of young men in the room also looked confused and looked at Tan Xiu with puzzlement. They knew Tan Xiu and could naturally understand Tan Xiu's meaning. He wanted these women to leave. "What are you doing, eldest brother?" asked Yuan Chuling with a frown. Tan Xiu ignored Yuan Chuling and smilingly looked at the door instead, saying, "Tang 28, send someone to prepare a car and send them to the Paradise Club. Do remember to tell the general manager there to entertain them with good food and drinks and try to satisfy any of their requests." "Understood." Tang 28 flashed in from the door and looked at the 6 girls, saying, "Please, everyone." Finally, the 6 girls followed Tang 28 and left. Tan Xiu turned his head and glanced at everyone's face. He then shouted, "Someone, move the dining table out of the dining room." Immediately, 4 teenagers around 12 or 13 years old appeared from the door. After they rushed into the dining room, they quickly moved the dining table and chairs to the living room. The tea table that was originally placed in the living room was moved away, leaving only some sofas outside. Long Zhengyu frowned and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's wrong with you, Tan Xiu?" Tan Xiu didn't speak. He waved his hand and 10 boxes of God's nectar appeared on the dining table. Then, he quickly tore the wine boxes and took out the bottles of God's nectar inside. A total of 60 bottles of God's nectar appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Tan Xiu moved his fingers and the 60 bottles of God's nectar were suddenly uncapped. At this time, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, "Brothers, I'll drink these 3 bottles of God's and Immortals' nectar first." After saying that, Tan Xiu drank 3 bottles of God's nectar in one breath. The moment everyone was moved, Tan Xiu wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and said in a deep voice, "I, Tan Xiu, have a bad temperament, so it's hard for me to make sincere friends. But I'm very lucky to finally get to know you." "Don't say that, Tan Xiu," said Long Zhengyu. "You're a sentimental and righteous person." Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt Long Zhengyu. He took a deep breath and said, "Listen to me first. I, Tan Xiu, have always been cautious in making friends with my brothers because the betrayal has always been a pain in my heart. But I recognize you from the bottom of my heart. You are Tan Xiu's brothers." "Brother, you don't have to say it out loud. Just put it in your heart. From today onward, I'll keep each and every one of you in my heart. Even if today is the last time we meet, I'll never forget you." After saying that, Tan Xiu took out a few cigarettes, opened them, took one out and lit it up. He took a few deep breaths and exhaled the smoke. Then, he slowly said, "I'm leaving. This farewell may be forever." Long Zhengyu strode to the front of Tan Xiu and stared at Tan Xiu. Then, he said in a deep voice, "The means of transportation are very developed nowadays. No matter which corner of the world you're in, we can find you as long as we think of you. So don't make it sound like we're parting by life and death. We're brothers for life. I believe your last sentence." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "But the place I'm going is not in any corner of this earth. I'm a cultivator. You may have noticed something unusual about me or heard about my identity as a cultivator after getting along with me. I have my own path to walk, and you also have your own lives to live. Although I really hope to have you brothers by my side, you still have to rely on yourself to walk your own path." "Where exactly are you going?" asked Long Zhengyu in a deep voice. "The Immortal World." Chapter 1253. Tan Xiu seriously said, "Don't think that fairy tales are deceiving. Many of them are actually true. Even if it's groundless, there will always be some clues. The place I'm going to is the Immortal World, a world that looks very beautiful on the surface, but is actually more cruel than hell." Long Zhenglin came over and asked in disbelief, "The Immortal World really exists? How is that possible? I've never heard of the existence of real immortals." "It's true," said Tan Xiu. For a moment, everyone fell into silence. After a long while, Shui Chao looked up at Tan Xiu with red eyes and asked in a deep voice, "Big Bro Tang, can you take me with you? I'm willing to go with you no matter how cruel it is." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I've thought about it many times before. I wanted to impart my cultivation technique to you so that you can go with me to the immortal world in the future. But after careful consideration, I chose to give up in the end. You all have your own lives, and you also have your friends and family. Your world is here. If I take you with me, what will happen to your family? What about your friends? Big Bro Tang, my mother has passed away. My wife and son are by my side. There are only the three of us. If you can, I hope you can take us with you. Apart from a few brothers, I have no one else worthy of nostalgia. Long Jinglin suddenly turned to look at Long Zhengyu. He grabbed a bottle of wine from the table and said with an extremely serious expression, Brother, although I'm reluctant to part with you, I also want to leave with eldest brother. I'm unfilial, so please help me be filial to my parents. Long Zhengyu's complexion changed. Brother, you know my temperament. I'm someone who can't sit still, said Long Jinglin seriously. Without eldest brother Tang, I'm afraid that I'll be living a muddle-headed life in the future. I like adventure, I like excitement, and I want to walk the path I choose. Brother, I was just a gangster before I met eldest brother. Ever since I met him, he changed my mind and changed the trajectory of my life. Otherwise, I'd still be a second-generation silk pants in the streets and alleys of Star City. Long Zhengyu's lips squirmed a few times before he finally asked in a deep voice, Have you really thought it through? Long Jinglin heavily nodded and said, Only by following eldest brother can I live a more and more wonderful life. If I follow boss, I won't take any detours. Brother, although the time was short, I've thought it through. Long Zhengyu also grabbed a wine bottle and forcefully bumped the bottle in Long Jinglin's hand. Then, he gulped down the entire bottle of wine in one gulp and said with a red face, Big brother, I respect your choice. From today onwards, the second son of the Long family will die in this world and will only live in our hearts. Brother, Long Jinglin's eyes turned red. He gritted his teeth and gulped down a bottle of wine. Then, he turned his head and stared at Tan Xiu, saying, Eldest brother, do you want me? Tan Xiu slowly closed his eyes. After a long silence, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, All right. You, Long Jinglin, and Xue Chao's family of 3 can follow me to the immortal world. But in the immortal world, all of you must listen to me. Otherwise, I will kill all of you with my own hands before anyone else can kill you. Otherwise, you won't be able to see your relatives when you die. I promise. I promise. Long Jinglin and Xue Chao shouted in unison. Tan Xiu's eyes slowly swept over the others' faces. Looking at their hesitant expressions, he then said in a deep voice, The rest of you, don't mention this matter to me again. Before I leave, I'll teach you a set of cultivation techniques so that you can also become cultivators. If you have great achievements in the future, you can come to the immortal world to find me. But if you can't, then we'll live in each other's hearts. The reason why I called all of you here today is that I want to get drunk with you and drink to my heart's content. All of you. Would you like to accompany me to get drunk? The eyes of more than a dozen people were a bit red. Long Zhengyu was the oldest, so he grabbed the wine bottle again and shouted in a deep voice, Let's drink and see off, brother. Let's drink. Drink. This night, more than a dozen people were drunk. Even Tan Xiu, who didn't deliberately force out the alcohol, was drunk and fell on the sofa. The next morning, after Tan Xiu woke up from his sleep, a warm smile immediately appeared on his face as he looked at the group of people who were swaying left and right. Tan Xiu went to the second floor to take a shower and change his clothes. Then, he began to arrange an array. At noon, when everyone woke up from their drunken stupor, Tan Xiu then began to teach them cultivation techniques. Medicinal pills. Body refining liquid. Array blessings. Various effects were applied at the same time, eventually helping them to step into the ranks of cultivators. Although they had just started to feel the qi and were barely able to control it. Early the next morning, everyone except Long Zhengyu had already left. In the study room on the second floor, Tan Xiu took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Long Zhenyu, saying, Zhenyu, you're the oldest among them and the most mature and steady one. Furthermore, you're someone who values friendship and righteousness, worthy of my trust. Take this interspatial ring and bind it with your blood. Then, it's completely yours. Long Zhenyu followed Tan Xiu's instructions and took the interspatial ring. Then, he asked, there are a lot of things inside. They're cultivation resources, said Tan Xiu. I've put enough medicinal pills inside for you to cultivate for 100 years. Each pill is recorded in a booklet, including the effects, the best time to take them, and the best time to take them. Additionally, I've also put 4 books inside. One is an ancient book on arrays, one on alchemy, one on refining, and the last one is a record of resources. You'll have these things together after I leave. Pay more attention to them and help them. I hope I can wait for you in the immortal world in the future. Long Zhenyu's heart was filled with warmth and he nodded repeatedly. I, Long Zhenyu, swear that I'll never take these things for myself, nor will I leave them alone. Trust me, I'll do my best in the future to take them to the immortal world to find you. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and said, remember my words. If you want to cultivate to a very high level, you'll need a huge amount of cultivation resources to assist you. There are 2 islands in the South China Sea. You'll take your confidants there later. One of them is for breeding fierce beasts, while the other is for planting medicinal herbs. Don't open the island for breeding fierce beasts before you break through to the golden core stage. But you can rest assured about the island for planting medicinal herbs. Also, you'll need a lot of money as your backing if you want to have resources and cultivate faster. I'll give each of them 2% of the magnificent Tang Corporation's shares and give you 20% of the shares. Someone will find you later and sign the contract with you. There are a lot of contracts you need to sign, but you'll know about it later. You're very familiar with 9 Dragons Island, so I hope you can take it as your base camp. I hope you can take it when you can break the array around 9 Dragons Island. At that time, I'll put the island transfer documents in the palace on 9 Dragons Island. There's a pocket world in the Longquan Mountain in the west. I've sent some people to seal the entrance to that pocket world a few days ago. You must defeat me. Only when your cultivation breaks through to the nascent soul stage can you take your people to that pocket world. Otherwise, all of you will die inside. There's a natural feng shui array in the mountain behind my hometown, the Su family village. There's a spirit vein spring inside. Although my people have been using it all these years, the spiritual energy of the earth vein inside hasn't been completely used up. If you want to break through to the golden core stage and the nascent soul stage as soon as possible, take some time to go there and cultivate in seclusion after you've studied the array ancient book I've left for you. Tan Xiu explained a lot of things in one breath, while Long Zhenyu directly picked up a pen and paper and recorded everything Tan Xiu said. Anything else? Long Zhenyu's heart was filled with warmth, yet his expression was very serious. Tan Xiu took out a cigarette and lit it. He was silent for a minute before he slowly looked up and said, there's one more thing I think it's necessary to tell you. The Chinese government has established a secret base in the Taklamakan Desert for 3 years. The research and manufacture in that secret base are all high-tech weapons. I'm the one who gave them all those weapons, which are also the technological power of a high-level civilization in the universe. If my guess is correct, interstellar battleships will be produced there in a few years at most. By then, humans will be able to step out of Earth and set foot on the Milky Way galaxy. The world structure will definitely change in the future, so you must be very careful. Don't trust anyone except yourself unless it's a last resort. Could it be that Huaxia will be able to rule Earth by then? Asked Long Zhenyu in amazement. I don't know the specific direction of the situation in the future either, said Tan Xiu. But you must remember not to go against the Chinese government. You can choose to leave if they want to trouble you. Also, I need you to do something for me. What is it? Asked Long Zhenyu. The director of Huaxia's Special Abilities Bureau, Duan Mulin, is more loyal to the country than anything else, said Tan Xiu. This is a good thing, but you must not have too many dealings with him. Remember to guard against him and keep an eye on him. Don't easily expose your identity as a cultivator. Else, it's very likely that he will make you risk your life for him at many times and in many ways. The most important thing for you is to cultivate and improve your strength. You haven't told me what you want me to do for you, said Long Zhengyu with a frown. Help me keep an eye on some families, such as the Ouyang's in Jingmen Island, the Mu family in the imperial capital, and Tan Xiu said. Long Zhengyu interrupted Tan Xiu and nodded seriously. I got it. I'll help you take care of any families or people who have a special relationship with you in secret. Chapter 1254. Tan Xiu patted Long Zhengyu's shoulder. After taking a deep puff of the cigarette, he exhaled the smoke and said, if someone wants to deal with you, even if it's Duan Mulin. You can find 2 people. They will definitely help you. This is the last card I've left for you. Who? Long Zhengyu's expression moved and hurriedly asked. Miao Wentong, Xiao Mingzhen, said Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu nodded heavily and said, I'll remember your words. Tan Xiu lit a cigarette and then got up, saying, Take care, brother. I've arranged a concealment array in this study room. If you can find it and open it, there are a lot of things I have to tell you. Including the distribution of the magnificent Tang Corporation's shares, the ownership of my everlasting feast hall, and, in short, a lot. I'll hand these over to you later. I'll never fail my mission. Long Zhengyu nodded and hugged Tan Xiu again. Then, he turned around and left. Tan Xiu's figure flashed and blocked Long Zhengyu's figure. With his back facing him, he said, This villa is yours from now on. The documents have been handled in advance and are in this study room. You just need to sign them. You gave me the King's View building in Southgate Town. Now, this brother can give you everything in these documents. I'm leaving. After a long time, Long Zhengyu was still staring at the door where Tan Xiu disappeared. Finally, he sighed faintly and turned around to glance around. Finally, he came to the desk and picked up the dozens of folders on it. Southgate Town. Imperial Capital, Tang family's ancestral residence. Blue Star Villa Complex. Star City's Walled Hill Village Estate. Long Zhengyu quietly read the dozens of folders. His eyes turned red and sparkling with tears. Only at this moment did he realize how much Tan Xiu valued him and how much he trusted him. My life. You've saved it. I'm this person. I'll be your brother forever. Long Zhengyu took a deep breath. Just as he was about to turn around and walk out of the study, he suddenly noticed a video recorder in the corner of the wall. Moreover, the video recorder was still in its active state. After a while, only then did Long Zhengyu realize that everything Tan Xiu had told him before had been recorded. Tan Xiu. Brother, I understand. Long Zhengyu walked to the window and looked at the world outside, where Tan Xiu had long disappeared, and muttered to himself. On an island in the South China Sea. A total of 215,400 people stood up straight, their gazes fixed on the dark sky. Rolling thunder, thick dark clouds, and bolts of lightning made this part of the world seem like the end of the world. As Tan Xiu and Gu Yan hovered in the air and slowly lowered their heads, Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said, Yan, let's find the remaining zodiac jade carvings. Once all the 12 zodiac jade carvings are gathered, I can activate the array and send us all to the immortal world. Before we leave, we need to see 3 people, said Gu Yan. Tan Xiu's expression shifted. He recalled the time when he was in Japan and the 3 spiritual consciousnesses that came from all over the world. Immediately, his gaze shifted to the northwest. However, the first thing that appeared in front of Tan Xiu, Gu Yan, and more than 200,000 people of the Great Tang Empire were 9 beautiful women in white dresses flying in the air. They were like fairies from the 9th heaven and appeared on the isolated island almost instantly. Sister Zhongling, my heart is beating very fast. It should be here. Sister Zhongling, my head hurts a little. It feels like something is going to drill out of my brain. I feel terrible. 8 of the girls' eyes seemed to contain stars as they constantly glanced at everyone. Although they could see Tan Xiao and Gu Yan standing hundreds of meters in the air, they couldn't see their faces clearly. It was as if there was a distorted space in front of them that covered their faces. In the middle, Zhongling, who was wearing a white dress and hovering in the air, also felt a kind of uncomfortable torment. Even the blood in her body had begun to churn constantly. Whoosh, a lightning-fast figure instantly appeared in front of the 9 women. Gu Yan frowned slightly. A strange look flashed in her eyes as she asked, "Who are you?" The 9 women looked at each other with vigilance in their eyes. At this moment, they clearly saw Gu Yan's appearance, but it was also at this moment that they felt even more uncomfortable. They felt that the woman in front of them was very familiar, but there were also many unfamiliar feelings in this familiarity. I'm Zhongling. Who are you? Zhongling took a step forward and asked in a deep voice. Gu Yan, answered Gu Yan, Boom, a bright light tore the darkness in Zhongling's sea of consciousness. In just a flash, Zhongling's eyes were filled with disbelief as she hurriedly called out, "You're Little Yan, Little Yan, What a familiar title." Gu Yan, recalled the days when she accompanied her master in the immortal world. Didn't many people call her that? Suddenly, a cold light flashed in Gu Yan's eyes as she shouted in a deep voice, "Who the hell are you?" Zhongling covered her head with both hands. Her body swayed in the air. Her brows were tightly furrowed as she shook her head in pain. I can't remember. I still can't remember. Why is this happening? What is our mission? Who are we looking for? At this moment, Tan Xiao floated in the air. He looked at the 9 women in front of him and slowly said, "You don't know anything. How did you come here?" His voice caught the attention of the 9 women. When they looked up one after another and their eyes fell on Tan Xiao's face, they were suddenly shocked and a bright light burst out from their eyes. Buzz, 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 terrifying auras erupted from the 9 women. These 9 auras fused into one and instantly made them let out sharp roars. Their voices soared to the sky along with their auras. A glittering golden seal word appeared in the dark sky. Immediately after that, the seal word became fragmented and the auras of the 9 women began to rise crazily. In just half a minute, their auras had become so powerful that Tan Xiao and Gu Yan were shocked. Celestial Immortals. Gu Yan's lips squirmed a few times. Killing intent instantly filled her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that these 9 women didn't show any killing intent, she would have unlocked her seal and killed them. Tan Xiao stared blankly at the 9 women with disbelief in his eyes. His lips were slightly parted and his voice was a bit trembling as it passed into the 9 women's ears. Immortal Sealing Restriction. Sealing the immortal soul and destroying the 5 senses and 5 senses for reincarnation and following the heavens mandate. Could it be the rebirth restriction among the immortal sealing restriction? Gu Yan turned her head and asked, "What's this immortal sealing restriction, Master? What's the rebirth restriction?" Tan Xiao took a deep breath and looked at the 9 women in front of him with a complicated expression. He slowly said, "The immortal sealing restriction is a forbidden technique I created. It's a type of secret divine technique. Only under certain special circumstances would someone use this forbidden technique, because once it was used, it would cause great harm to oneself. As for the rebirth restriction, it's the most harmful one among the immortal sealing restrictions. After using it, you can indeed find the person who has placed the restriction on them and then follow the trajectory of their life to the place where they are. Let me give you an example. If the other party is an immortal at the golden immortal stage, their cultivation will definitely drop by 3 levels once they use the rebirth restriction. No matter how they cultivate in the future, they won't be able to advance even half a step." "You mean, they were once perfected golden immortals?" asked Gu Yan in amazement. "If they really used the rebirth restriction of the immortal sealing restriction, I'm afraid they were once perfected golden immortals given their current celestial immortal cultivation." Tan Xiao forced a smile. In the sky, Tribulation clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The moment Tang Xiu's voice faded away, the 9 women, including Zhongling, finally stopped trembling. 2 lines of tears rolled down their cheeks as they knelt in the air and wept at Tang Xiu under the watchful eyes of the public. Master. Tang Xiu was stunned. Master. Countless people used to call him that because he used to have hundreds of thousands of attendants. Most of them were golden immortals, but there were also hundreds of them who were perfected golden immortals. Could it be? Are they the 9 among those hundreds of people? Zhongling wept and whimpered, I'm Xianling, master. She used to be your personal maid. Xianling. Tang Xiu's body trembled and he instantly dashed to Zhongling. After pulling her up, he carefully observed her face. Although her appearance had changed, Tang Xiu could see the familiar look in her eyes when she looked at him. That's right. It was Zhongling. The maid who had followed him for thousands of years and served him. Tang Xiu's lips squirmed a few times and his heart was secretly sour. He used to have a large number of maids, but only 9 of them were perfected golden immortals. The reason why they could become perfected golden immortals was partly because of his guidance and teaching, and partly because Xue Qingqing often gave them cultivation resources. Zhongling wept and whimpered, Master, we heard that you failed to cross the tribulation and turned into ashes. We didn't believe it, so we found the ancient book of the immortal sealing restriction in the secret vault. Because you used a forbidden technique on me before, we came here. We didn't have the memory of the immortal world before, so we forgot who you are. Fortunately, we saw you and the seal in our bodies was broken, reminding us of the past. Master, we have been looking for you for a long time. Tang Xiu's body trembled slightly. He could imagine how much courage it took for the 9 women to make up their minds to use the immortal sealing restriction. Later, they would never be able to return to the perfected golden immortal realm, and they would never be able to become stronger. It was like an unbreakable curse that made them see the end of their future. Are you worth it? Tang Xiu's eyes swept across the faces of the 9 women and murmured.